As we begin, I'd like to ask my co-host we'll get on air first. We'll give it a moment. Let's let people continue to join in on this stream, but I have a very important trans-related question. Hey, people, that phone number, though, 336-543-2101. You could call right now. Arden, will you give me a thumbs up if you can hear me and stuff? Oh, shit. I think Arden might be going to the bathroom. We're gonna be on air in just a moment. This is not the intro song, it's the pre-intro song. There's a song that's coming before the intro, but we don't start till 5 p.m. That's Central Time. Y'all ready for this? Don't. I hope that it automatically dumped the audience from the other show. Would you all let us know if that happened? Did you automatically get pushed here? Oh, somebody said, Jimmy, take my money. Here's to some unhinged calls to D. That was from Joshua Everett. That's going to be the new thing. Just making the whole deal. I'll just sing all the super chats. Ooh-wee. Super chat. Just give us a moment, people. But that phone number, oh yeah, y'all hate it formatted that way. Let me beep. I just like the sequencing, okay? That's what I like. Waiting for Arden to return and give me the thumbs up. Uh-oh. I made a boo-boo. That's fine. Okay, that's done. We're going live so soon because you've been good. Ooh, Arden, will you give me a thumbs up so I can know that you hear me? Arden, can you hear me? Arden, I don't think you hear me. Okay, hang on, I gotta fix this. Arden, can you say something? Let me find out. Oh, whoa. Sorry, people. I'm tech supporting audio source, bus F. What is... Yep, bus F is going out. And then let's have a look at my mic, also through bus F. I think it's on your end. Say something. I do hear you. But I am specifically hearing...
Hello, sorry. Trying to get this working.
Bum, bum, bum. Bum, ba-da, bum.
Okay, now I can hear you.
Okay, good. Now we can do the show. Okay. Hey, everybody. Welcome. This is Calling It Now. You should tell your friends and your family who don't have very good beliefs that they should call Calling It Now. That's the show, and that's what we do. We talk to people who we think that have bad beliefs, and we see if we can come to a place of agreement that they're stupid. No, that's a joke. That's the intro to the show. Hey, everybody. Did you want in? Did you want to drop a couple of intro bars?
Hey, everybody. I'm here to say I'm eating a tortilla in the grossest way.
I thought it was going to be in the queerest way. That's what I was expecting.
I was really hungry and I had no time and I was like, carbs. So I just grabbed a tortilla shell and I'm eating it. I'm raw dogging this tortilla shell right now.
Oh, sorry, that phrase has been ruined by Mark Zuckerberg for me. When he talked about not drinking coffee is raw dogging life. Hey, listen, today's main claim that we would like to debate, we'll say debate more than argue, discuss with people is that the obsession that MAGA has with trans people is creepy and unscientific. and that actually trans rights are human rights, and it would be the American thing to let trans people transition and live they want to live. So that's the claim. If you would like to call and discuss, debate, whatever that, where am I? What do you mean, where am I? I'm right here. You can call 1-336-543-2101. If you're trying to call from outside of the U.S., there is a link in the description. But we want to hear from you. And that number, so easy to remember, 336-543-2101. So easy. So easy. So good. So fine. My. There's no straight way to eat a tortilla. Yeah, there is. There's straighter. And the fact of the matter is the girth on that tortilla was depressing. It honestly wasn't queer enough.
No, listen. Okay, I mean, I've kind of flattened it out as part of the problem. It's not like round, and there's nothing in it.
But now you could you could fold it again. There's not even cheese in that. You're just eating like a plain tortilla. Oh, is it an HEB tortilla though? Tortilla.
No, it's like a Mission.
You live in a state with an HEB, and you buy Mission tortillas still.
Listen, I buy HEB brand everything else. Part of the problem is that HEB brand stuff, because it's fresher usually and tastes better, is it goes bad faster.
That's true. You can just put them in the fridge though. I'm talking about at the HEB. I assume it's every HEB. Do you not go and buy, like, every time you go? I can't have gluten at the moment. Every form of gluten right now fucks with me, but it does almost every other food. But if I even for my partner, almost at least once a week we get a hot bag of tortillas. And then she'll start eating
their chips are really, really good.
No, not the chips. The tortillas. They cook the tortillas there at the store, and they are a bag of hot.
I don't think I've gotten those before.
Tortillas, and you can watch them. They come off the little conveyor belt, and they catch them, and they are when I could so delicious. Somebody said Winco is greater than HEB. Tell me you've never been to an HEB in your life without telling me you've never been to an HEB in your life. There is no superior. I'm in that cult and you can't talk me out of it. That phone number again, 336-543-2101. Hey, people, go ahead and shoot us super chats of things that you think in the meantime. I'm out of Threads jail. Nice. Aaron Villarreal says donation for cheese and hot sauce. I am currently building, y'all can see my handwriting if you like. I'm currently building what's going to be the debate menu. So instead of that hold screen that you all saw earlier, what I want to do is start going live maybe 10, 15 minutes beforehand with a little timer that says this is like, we're going live in 15 minutes or whatever, and it's counting down, and has the phone number, and then also has the debate menu thing. So like, for example, I'm going to probably clean up the phrasing of this, but humanism is a superior moral system to faith-based moral systems. That would be one of the claims for the debate menu. And basically it's, here's the debate menu. Here's the position I'm willing to take. You can take the opposing position. There is no good and valid reason to believe in a God. MAGA doesn't understand trans issues. Trans rights are human rights. These are the things now look, I started like 2 minutes before we went live. It's not for a lack of trying. Like, I just can't think of a single other value I have. But if you have some things that you think should go on the menu, then, hey, okay, people, listen, first of all, someone wrote Jimmy's ganking Javon's format. Sure. But isn't also everybody janking ours? Like,
for sure.
Isn't he using, like, I've literally been like helping him figure out vMix. I'm like, here's how to route in your call in studio. Literally, like, here's the even the people think, you know, we ripped off the ACA. The whole reason I invented the line was because back then the ACA only allowed people in Austin to do the show. You couldn't be. And so I called them and was like, guys, I'm going to do a thing. I'll keep our time slots not aligned with each other. We don't care anymore. I don't care if we end up at the same time anymore. And in fact, on Sundays, we now go over AXP and we beat them every time. Anyway, we
like 3 times.
Yeah, by a lot. Anyway, I called them, was like, I want to do this, and they were like, yeah, anything you need to know. They kind of told me how they do their system. I took a few things from there, but then I created the remote system by which anybody from anywhere could be a part of a call-in show. So, it could be most famously like when you and Katie were doing shows, literally international co-hosts taking calls. That was
Yeah.
my innovation into the, and then when COVID hit, they called me back and was like, so we need help. We need to know how to do what you do. And I gave it to them. So before we talk about who's stealing what, just remember who walked so these people could run. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm kind of getting at there? Anyway, but I do like the idea of a debate menu, a timer, a call down thing. Yeah. We're not going to put the menu on the screen all the time like he does. We'll probably do little pop-ups here and there if we have like, we're putting challenges out for the call, but the menu's a solid one. I miss Shannon Q also. She'll be back eventually. She's just...
Yeah, I know. She's got a lot of stuff going on in her life. Yeah, I understand. I think also the menu makes it easier for people because sometimes like we'll do like a topic in the title or something that's like, does God help our life or whatever. Yeah. And or convert to atheists or whatever, but people don't necessarily know what to call about. And so I mean,
Mike, I did just explain it, but Mike just wrote, wasn't AXP the original of the line? So I just explained it to you. But sure, they were the original in the same, well, and by the way, even then, public, they were doing the way, and unfortunately, they've kind of still locked into some things, and it's devoid of whatever tensions there might be between our organizations, how locked in they are into not being able to break out of what is still a system rooted in their public television days is
like the public
an issue
access
that they're running. Yeah. And that's how they started. And public access call-in shows certainly wasn't their invention either. But well, sure, they were the original of the line, the same way that cornflakes was the original cereal, right? But then even somebody was like, what if we put sugar on these bitches? What if we frosted these assholes? And it was like, oh, turns out this doesn't have to suck, and I no longer feel discouraged from masturbating as cornflakes was invented to do.
A hot take. This is just as a girly who, if I could, would eat bread and live off of bread exclusively.
Sure.
I love plain cornflakes. Like I just, any bread carb based thing.
Yeah.
I feel like I have some sort of nutrient deficiency because without that, I feel like a meal is incomplete, which is part of why I can shove a tortilla in my mouth and be like, okay, good. I've got like the next 2 hours at least good for me on fuel.
I don't know why anyone would choose regular cornflakes when Frosted Flakes are so good. Now, here's what I'll tell you. The thing that we did that was heresy growing up, because they are gross, so you do anything to find a good way. We would put, granted, we're talking like Bishop Storehouse version of that. For what people don't know, if you're like a poor Mormon, you can get like generic foods. The Mormon church has like their internal welfare system because they want to create dependency amongst their cult members. Anyway, we would put orange juice on cornflakes instead of milk.
Oh,
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's
actually, juice and cereal, not as bad as you think it is. You know what I really liked? People, we're ready to debate any MAGA person who wants to call in. This is the topic above us. MAGA, your obsession with trans people are creepy and unscientific. Trans rights are human rights. Trans people are valid. Trans women are women. If you want to call and debate or give your side or explore how much, we had 2 very pleasant conversations on the last episode where the people actually came around and kind of saw our side. And then we had 4 nightmare people who like would keep ironically yelling to not be interrupted, but one of them literally did not let me finish a single sentence. The entire call, not one sentence did I complete. And I'm not even saying run-on sentences, like a normal length sentence. I know I can do a run-on. Couldn't let me finish a single regular sentence even.
Yeah, I've been deciding to start coining the MAGA thing with trans people, trans derangement syndrome.
Alexander just wrote that MAGA has trans derangement syndrome is amazing.
Yeah, I put that in. I mentioned that on the earlier show because I've been like, man, the blank derangement syndrome has kind of become a meme, and it really just feels like it applies so cleanly to their. It's bizarre. It is genuinely a bizarre obsession, and like they have to contort themselves and pretend they care about fairness in women's sport and all these various things, and like or like the efficacy of healthcare or the evidentiary backing behind certain healthcare. And I'm like, listen, there's a really good conversation to be had about the quality of evidence behind the medical interventions that we use. But the problem is when you start pretending that trans people and trans medicine is exclusively and uniquely poorly evidenced but over applied, that's where we have a problem. Like,
Right.
this is not unique to trans people. There is lots of different medical interventions that have, like, by, you know, certain evaluations, like poor evidentiary status. But that's partly because of like the rules we have on conducting ethical research. That makes it difficult to have like the ideal gold standard quality of research for a lot of medical interventions, especially for children. So like there's like a lot of things in the way, and the evidence for trans healthcare is there, and it's actually decent. It's just like always could be better, right?
Sure. I mean, literally, when we're talking about people act like that all of this funding exists to do all of the studies that we ever need, when in reality, like cis women's health only just started getting like a guarantee they would even include women in studies. Remember, like so many tons of medications never ever actually tested how they affect women, and yet were prescribed to women, but only were tested on men and such. So there's a whole lot of like that nonsense. What were you going to say?
For sure. I was just going to say, and I think maybe I'm wrong. I thought that forced inclusion of women in research got also rolled back recently.
I don't know.
I'm not remembering where that came from, so I could be just pulling that out of my ass.
I'm not certain on what like the legal things, but as far as like at least the recognition that women would be necessary, and other groups too, but that women would be necessary. It's hilarious too, because they're shooting themselves on the feet. The like leopards are eating their face, but they're like covering themselves in barbecue sauce first, because they're like, oh yeah, we're so glad that Trump is no longer allowing the study of like trans stuff too. And it's literally like, but if you guys are correct about trans issues, these studies would be the things that validate you. So right now, all of the existing science points to the best thing for trans people is to let them transition, to affirm their existence, to make them feel welcome, to give them community, all of that kind of stuff. And all of your alternatives, if you have those studies, which are over medical science, psychological sciences, like all of them, all of that would come out. And so it's funny because the very process by which, if you were correct, you would be validated, you are hostile to that, which to me is almost an internal acknowledgement that they don't know. But, you know, maybe they do know. So a reminder, go ahead. We'll probably hit some super chats later. But if you have a super chat you want to put in because you want to submit for approval, and we'll grade it. This is what we'll do, because we know that a lot of you people here, you need to be degraded a little bit, or criticized or complimented for doing a good work. So you send those in and we'll give it a letter grade, A through F, on how good a topic it would be and whether or not it's going on the menu. And sometimes it might be like you get a C because it's going on the menu, but the wording is so bad that I have to now do work to fix it for you. So we'll degrade you fucking weirdos. All right. I'm so good to our fans. Let's start by talking to Tom in Minnesota. Minnesota is a place that I like. Tom in Minnesota. I might even move to Minnesota one day. I hope that we'll be great neighbors and friends. I imagine, Tom, the weather there must be much nicer than it is here right now. Am I wrong?
I don't know where you are actually off the top of my head, but here it's about 61 degrees. So if that's in Ohio, then yeah.
So jealous. I'm in Texas. It hit 101 where I am today.
Oh yeah, no, that's much better here, of course. Yeah.
Yeah, you're getting that good weather. Well, Tom, I like to start that way. Start with a little place of we can acknowledge we're both humans. We both recognize good and bad weather. There's something about our human experience we have in common. Now let's find out if there's somewhere we diverge. And it looks like you want to disagree with the title topic, or by the way, you are welcome to go into any of the other things we tend to talk about. I don't know your familiarity here, but go ahead, Tom.
Okay, sure. I guess just, recently we are here. I can't say I have a ton of experience you guys talked about in the past, but just on the basis of it being, again, I don't know exactly. It says trans, the disagreement is, unscientific or something, right?
Yeah, I can give you the title again. MAGA's obsession with we'll just say transgender issues in general, or however you want to take it, honestly, will work, but that it is unscientific. And we added the word creepy to it as well, because it seems to me and to many of us that the obsession has very little to do with the actual experiences of the individuals, and a sort of internal commentary on the person, how the person more feels about themselves, is where I would go. For example, I think that men who are offended by very feminine queer men tend to just be easily emasculated men and think that somehow it somehow comments on their manliness if they just let that be and don't bully those people. But yeah, Tom, it's unscientific to say the least.
Sure, and I guess are we talking the social sciences here, or what? Do you have a study that you could just because? But what's is the claim more that are you doing the brain sex thing, that the brain chooses the sex and the body, or what's, when you say it's unscientific, what's your basis here is my question.
Boy, the breadth of what that answer could be is so large that I think the simplest way would be, what is a scientific claim you think comes out of MAGA that is legitimate, that is in opposition to what trans people and trans advocates are working for?
Okay, you're going to hate my answer. Prepare you guys in your audience for groans here. Simple as biological sex, binary, male or female. That's, I know, I know, the eyes are rolling. Yeah, but my thing is that it's simple as that, right? And
so if it's as simple as that, why is it that isn't? Why is that not the position of biologists, for example? Why is it even that? And by the way, we're already diverging from the issue at hand, because you are wanting to have a discussion about sex, and this would be a discussion about gender. But yeah, go ahead, Arden.
I was going to specifically ask, what do you think it is? What is it that you think trans rights activists disagree with that conflicts with your understanding of biological sex?
We'll just start with something that's very obvious. Here in Minnesota, in fact, it was a big deal, at least, not so much myself. I don't got a kid in high school. I don't really care too much, but, it pops up on the news feed algorithms, as you will. But, okay, forgive me for saying our own pronouns and so forth. Truly, I'm, trying my best to do this stuff. I might misspeak. So correct me if I'm wrong here, but a trans woman in high school, or a girl, I don't know, a young, I don't know, you can know what that, she was 14, 15, or but born a male, and you can tell I'm struggling with this, is that she and her team absolutely dominated the softball state championships, where they had 2 back-to-back shutouts. She pitched back-to-back games. I'm talking these little girls. I mean, because she's a girl too. They couldn't hit her. She's 6 foot, taller than all these, and all those kids. If I'm just saying, I don't have a kid in that team, but my gosh, that's just the one thing that just stands out to me is it's kind of ludicrous. The Overton window shifted where, okay, trans are now almost, not almost, but it's going to more normalized where 20, 30 years ago saying gay marriage should be a thing was crazy. And then all of a sudden say otherwise is crazy, right? So I understand, we're trying to push for progressiveness and so forth, but I think there reaches a limit where it's just going against common sense for the sake of I don't know. So again, do you think this woman, this young, not even woman, I'm calling, she's a girl, okay, 15, 16 year olds, who knew who they were at that age? Sorry, I wasn't that confident in my sexuality. I didn't know if I could produce. I didn't know about anything at that age. So my point is that I'm just making it clear that is it okay with you to have a whole trans woman in sports going on? Because doesn't that take away opportunities from biologically, and again, sex, gender? Again, you got. I don't. My point is that it takes away opportunities from women.
Let's slow down for a second here, Tom. I just don't want us to broaden this too much, because then it just becomes difficult to kind of address everything we're talking about. So broadly speaking, I do support trans people being included in sports. And I think there's a number of different things we can talk about there. I think my primary opposition is to a unilateral ban of trans people in sports in general, which are usually what the policy prescriptions to oppose this look like, where trans people are just not allowed to compete in sports. Sometimes they'll say you just can't compete in women's sports. Sometimes we're just not allowed to compete in sports in general. And I think most people would agree that. So first of all, I don't necessarily accept that trans women, that they would look like biological, men, for a language that's comfortable for you, across the board when studied.
I understand. I'm saying she was 6 foot. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Go on.
No, it's okay. I don't really care what her height is. It's not actually really relevant to the point I'm making. My point is that, like, the policy implications are a ban that unilaterally bans a group of people for a trait that some of them might have hypothetically, but that they don't necessarily have. And I would advocate for policies that are going to have some sort of like objective criteria, right? Like, let's say height is really important for this particular sport, right? I'm not saying it is. I'm just saying, let's hypothetically, height is really important for performance in this sport. Then you should have some sort of ban on height rather than sex. And while sure, height is correlated with sex to a certain degree, there are going to be people who are trans women who do not meet that criteria, but are being banned for no reason. And so the question I would ask back to you, Tom, was, let's imagine a cisgender woman, right? Who, for whatever reason, has all the same advantages that a trans woman would have. Let's say she's 6 feet tall, she's very muscular. We can speculate about why. Maybe there's some sort of disorder of sexual development. Maybe she has naturally high testosterone. It doesn't really matter. So this cis woman exists. She has all those same advantages. Should she be banned from sports?
No, of course not. Again, I think we're getting off topic here. Let's just.
So, no, but this is the problem.
Very small.
No, sorry, Tom, but this is the problem, right? When you come in and say, oh, trans women shouldn't be allowed to compete because she's going to have some sort of biological advantage. She's so much taller, they can't hit her. And then I say, well, what happens when a cis woman has all those same exact examples? And you say, well, of course she shouldn't be banned, right? So then that reveals that the issue you have is not actually with the biological advantage.
Well, because it's not one, it's many. I mean, let's be honest here. The chances of, for example, this girl is 15, right? So she probably, I even know.
It's not a one-off what?
He said it's not one, it's many, which, by the way, Tom, just so you know,
it's not just height, it's
Tom, hang on, Tom. Just so you know, the contention we're going to have at the end of whatever you say is possibly with the things you say, but also the fact that actually it isn't many. In fact, I bet you can list more transgender athletes that you think are competing unfairly than you can list women's athletes in general that are not trans. That it's actually because you're focused.
There's only, again, I think the number
because you're focused. Tom, you could definitely, Tom, you're the exception, but we talk to these people every day. And usually if I'm like, name three competitive softball players right now.
Home of the Lynx, baby. Maya Moore is like a god. I mean, I'm just saying, you guys are talking 4 straight back-to-back WNBA titles. I'm very proud of that, So
the reason why you believe it is a lot is because there is a very short list of names that come in front of you. And by the way, people don't follow up with like, oh, Leah Thomas did such and such, and we're going to ignore that a cis woman immediately broke her record after, or whatever comparable thing. By the way, it took me very little searching to find out that there is, in Minnesota, a cis woman, Emmy Sylvia Cochran, in 2025, also set the Minnesota single-game strikeout record with 26 Ks in a 12-inning 1-0 victory. So this is a cis woman who has actually outperformed in 2025 the trans woman that you are describing.
At what level is that? See, when you say strikeouts, there's like multiple divisions. You played high school sports, you understand this. That's not at the highest level. I'm talking at the state championship in division. We have a different division. So the point is the highest division. I think it's 3 or 4 on top of that. But the point is that, yeah, it's just something that these, young women don't have a lot of sports. Again, they don't have a lot of opportunity as men do in our areas. There's only one big women's league, the WNBA, right? Mm-hmm. And so if you take away, there's not a national college softball league. It's college softball. I said college. There's not a national softball league. You know what I'm saying? Show me if I'm wrong. The point is that it's like if we take away these opportunities, it's like to give the advantage to one. Much like how you said you can only name 32 or 34. It's not that many, and there's not that many advantages. Sure, we can play the if and but if we're going on averages, on average, trans women outperform compared to non-trans women. Don't come out, please. And on average, they don't need. So why are we?
But you're wrong.
The rule of say
But you are wrong. You are only talking about the people who are the exceptions. Most trans people do not compete. Trans people have been able to compete at the Olympics for years. Guess how many gold medals they have?
20 years.
20 years. How many gold medals do you think trans women have at the Olympics?
probably proportionate to the amount of percentage there on the unit population, which
you
again,
think so? Do you think so? Because it's zero. Tom, it's zero. Trans people have 0 gold medals. What?
So the point is that there's clearly not an epidemic.
At the highest levels. I'm looking right here. Mariah Anderson, in the entire history of Minnesota State softball, became only the 6th pitcher in the state history to surpass 1,000 career strikeouts. That's a cis woman. Again, outperformed your trans example.
No, because that's a different division. Do you understand? Division work. She's from a small school.
This is from only in the entire state history. To be able to surpass 1,000 career strikeouts. Presumably, your trans athlete that you're using as your sacrificial lamb here has gone through the division progression as well.
Sure. Okay. Honestly, if we're going to get on to the minutia again, the thing is,
we have to get onto the minutia because this is a minutia issue. Trans people represent a tiny population, and now you want an even tinier population of them. So we're talking about a minutia issue that, again, you can't demonstrate they are outperforming normal biological advantages. If there is something that is clearly unfair, most people support regulating the sport in whatever way brings the fairness back. Unlike the South Park episode, nobody supports just, I am a fully male presenting thing, and now I'm just going to say I'm a woman and go and compete and beat out all of these women. And that's clearly been demonstrated to be the case because, once again, 0 gold medals from the Olympics.
I guess, okay, yeah, if you think you're totally, I mean, again, it's 1% of the, I think it's like less than 1% of just United States people being trans, but let's just you think that applies in sub-Saharan Africa? Do you think they even know what transgender is? I'm sorry. If you take woman
yes, no, excuse me. Tom, just because people don't know what words to put to their experiences doesn't mean they don't exist. And we absolutely know that trans people have always existed, even if they didn't have language to put it to. So yes, I believe that probably whatever the percentage is, let's say it's 1, it may be higher because just like we're finding out with queerness, the more acceptance you have, the more it turns out that more and more people come out, and right now you've got a big influx of bisexuality coming out of the newer generations. They may be even higher, but let's say it's 1%, and that's roughly what it actually is. Yeah, I would expect to find it just maybe not self-identified, maybe not by those terms, but that yes, I think that it's weird you're going with Africa, but yes, I would expect to find 1% of Africans.
Let's go to India. Sorry, why
okay, sure, India.
Why would it be a race or like what's all this culture war shit? I thought it was 20. I thought we're over it.
You're the one who's bringing it there.
What did I? All I said was I think it's weird you went with Africa.
Africa. Why? Are you assuming I'm a bigot? You think I'm a bigot? What
I don't know.
Trying to say?
Tom, I don't know yet.
Tom's crashing out.
Tom.
He's having like this Destiny incel crash out.
Tom, who did you vote? Who did you vote for in 20?
I don't need that shit.
Who did you vote in 2016, 2020, and 2024? Was it all Trump?
I proudly voted for Hillary Clinton, my queen. I read her biography. In 1994, she was for single payer. She was, again, I'm not an idiot. I'm sorry if I disagree on this one cultural issue that's only less than 1%. On the majority of things, we would be in line. I'm a Minnesotan, all right?
Tom, I think after you're going to have to go back and watch this call and see how sensitive and emotional you became to very mundane remarks.
Well, you brought up it's weird you bring up Africa. No,
it was weird.
The people, why is it weird I brought up Africa? What was your
It was weird.
There?
It was weird. It seems out of nowhere. It seems out of nowhere that you would pick something of like, here's a country that I expect to be more ignorant of things like gender issues and stuff, or a continent. I expect them to be more ignorant, and therefore I'm going to make some kind of. Tom, could I finish? Tom, do you want the explanation of why it was weird? Or do you want to talk over me?
Because I'm here to explain it to you. The Destiny fast talk edgelord thing.
Right, Tom. I'm not impressed.
No, okay, I'm not trying to impress you.
Tom, it's okay if you don't know who Destiny is. I also tell people they're Kellyanne Conwaying who don't know who Kellyanne Conway is.
I know who that is. Yeah, the Trump lady back in the day. Yeah,
and you're Kellyanne Conwaying, by the way, too.
What about Kellyanne Conway?
You're Conwaying.
Okay, see, sure. I don't.
Are you ready to return to the conversation, or does it have to be you're going, why do you have to make it about identity politics while melting down over the remark? Because it is weird to bring up another continent, another
It was also
region
just
of the planet.
Charlie Kirk, like, let's own the libs.
It was also just completely irrelevant to the conversation. Like, there was nothing about that statement that was relevant to the it was just weird in like a conversational element. It's like just completely out of left field, non sequitur.
Let's prove it's Tom. The Olympics, which is a world competition.
Prove it's not weird. Go ahead, Tom, and explain to us why bringing up sub-Saharan Africa was what I believe you said. Go ahead and explain why that's important to our point about MAGA's obsession with trans people is unscientific. Please, Tom, make the connection and I will apologize.
Okay. You don't need to apologize. I don't need it. But my thing is that why I brought sub-Saharan Africa up is because we're bringing up the Olympics, which is a worldly competition, right? And not to be weird, but do you know about the different different hominids pre-sapien? There was Australopithecus, there was Erectus, there was Homo neanderthalis, there was Homo, forgot the other one.
New non sequitur.
My point is that due to this, right, they carry different traits. And so if you ever did 23andMe, pop up saying you have this percent of Neanderthal DNA, and this leads to having, certain traits that genetically proven in our S&P markers in our biological genome, like our human genome.
We're going there. Okay.
No, my point is that
this conversation has actually detached from the topic and reality all in one.
Is unscientific. I'm asking, and it's only to come. I'm saying you asked for me to explain. I'm trying to go fast to be like kind to your viewers. So if you want me to take my time,
wish you would go slower.
And try to come up eloquent and impress an audience and be performative like you guys are so good at doing, I can do that myself. But
Tom, I'm just waiting. Tom, I'm just waiting for you to return to the point. I've just been sitting here patiently waiting for this to connect, and you can't get it.
It's a country that you think. Show me, okay, let's look at a percentage of transgenders in Southern Africa. Like, show me that. Like,
why would that matter? Tom. Hey, Tom, my favorite color is red. Can either of us justify why what I said and what you just said has anything to do with MAGA's unscientific views about trans people? I suspect you can't, and I know I can't figure it out.
To defend bring up Africa, and I was trying to, and now you're cutting me off to bring up the color red.
Yeah, super balls are super bouncy.
I gave you like 30 seconds uninterrupted to make the point, and you went on a completely second irrelevant tangent, not defending your point at all.
I think you were trying to compare. I think you were trying. I think Tom. Let me point out what it was sounding like. The direction you were going. Jesus Christ, Tom. Please rein in your emotions, Tom. You're being far too emotional. Please rein them in. Bring them down, Tom. Because you didn't finish your point, let me explain to you where it looks like you were going, and maybe you will want to. It looks like you were trying to compare the biological advantage of what you believe is trans people to a biological advantage that you think sub-Saharan African people have because of, it sounded like, their closer relation to early hominid species, which would both mean you don't understand white people are the ones who have the Neanderthal blood, but I know they do. I do digress. Okay, so Tom, when that's what it sounds like, the direction you're taking it is, maybe don't diverge from it to then go off on an absolute nonsense lecture and finish your point, because right now it sounded like gross race realism kind of shit. So would you like to now get out of that doghouse and finish it?
To be honest, I don't think, again, it's 2025.
Yeah.
Race realism is still bad, scary, a big bad guy, or is there a truth to it?
Oh, wait, Tom. Oh my God, Tom. Oh my God.
I'm serious.
Oh my God, Tom.
But did I always
Tom, are you familiar with what race realism is? And what Tom, chill. I need to know the answers to a couple questions from you. Let's keep it simple. Yes or no's would be great. Tom, are you familiar as a movement with what race realism is? Not if you want to take it off some obscure direction, like, black people have higher blood pressure and need different medications and older age than white people do, or when they have higher blood pressure. Not that. Not trying to make it a literal and save it. The term race realist. If I go on the internet and represent race realism, you recognize that is a specific movement with specific claims, correct?
To a degree, I understand it's cringe to be part of that movement, but I don't like all the back.
Tom, is that the question I asked?
No, I don't.
You don't recognize that that's a specific movement with specific claims represented by people like Stefan Molyneux and other of the 23
Well, he
convention
clearly does
weirdos.
Because he just tried to say, I realize it's cringe to be a part of that movement. So he clearly does know what the movement is. He just doesn't want to admit it because it's going to make him look like a racist.
When I think racism, I think about Nick Fuentes. Like, that's what I think of. I don't know. Stefan
Yeah,
Molyneux.
I think about, and Tom, I got to tell you right now, if I'm dividing the room, I'm putting you so far with what you've said because you still haven't cared to correct my interpretation of you going down a race realism. I said that's where it seemed like you were going. You go, but is race realism so bad? But anyway, you didn't care to correct that. So if I'm dividing up the room and I'm making the room of like, here's Nick Fuentes' team and here's my team, you're not going on my team.
Well, I'm the one who voted for Hillary Clinton in 2016. Were you too cool to vote then? When you guys were still on like the Free Palestine kick, not voting for Kamala still? Or was I
excuse me, Tom, everybody here
crashing out on something irrelevant again.
It's also wild. I voted for Kamala Harris despite being a leftist and feeling we got fucked by the DNC and think that the DNC is a disgusting organization filled with corrupt politicians and that we as a country will move on better when we get rid of people like them, and yet still chose the lesser of two evils. And I voted for Hillary Clinton and I voted for Joe Biden. So it's funny how you can't just ask a question that you think is relevant. You just have to throw something out there, see if it sticks. You're trying this diarrhea against the wall, and what doesn't slide off of the acrylic is your method of debating here. And you have yet to just simply answer yes or no questions without trying to go up down some non sequitur point. Tom, does the science currently support that trans people should be allowed to transition, have access to medical transition, or does it not?
You're 18 years old? No. Over 18, do what you want.
Why would it matter? Why would medical advice not apply to children?
For the same reason, if I get, let's say, a misdemeanor, some felony when I'm 16, it's not my record at 19.
If you get what?
Same reason.
Misdemeanor felony.
Okay, great. But if you got appendicitis at 16, do we let you die?
Okay, okay. Hold on.
Tom, answer the question. Answer the question, Tom. Tom, we're not going to go down your non sequiturs. Do we give you the prescribed? Do we give you the recommended?
Same as transgenderism.
Do we give you?
Is that what we're doing?
Do we give you the recommended?
No, Tom, but I bet you that's what you wish we were doing because you're crashing out so hard. It's your only out.
Jesus Christ, Tom. Do we or do we not give children the recommended medical care when medical issues come up?
Okay. In that blanket statement, yes, I'll agree.
Great. Sure. Do we treat children for depression?
Yeah, we do, but that's...
Do we give cis children puberty blockers?
Yes, we do.
Yes, we do. Why?
Some kids are short. They need to get a little taller.
That's not why we give them puberty blockers. Puberty blockers. What is a puberty blocker?
I'm doing a yes/no game with you. You're doing the yes. I'm getting perjury.
Puberty blockers. What do we give puberty blockers for?
Block puberty.
Why? Why would we give that to a child? Should we give those to children?
I mean, that's the thing we have for a long time, and so that's. I mean,
should we give puberty blockers to children, to cis children? We're not even talking about trans. Cis children. Should we give them puberty blockers if medically they are indicated as necessary?
Give me an example. Would be medically off the top of my head, I can't think of one that would necessitate that, but we've been doing it for years.
So you literally don't even know. So basically, what you're saying is all of these things that exist, all of these things that exist for the betterment of a cis child's life, you're happy with. But if we introduce these to a trans child to make their life better, shut it down.
Can I give you an example? Why not? Can I get a sentence in, please, just quick? Because this is something that's kind of close to me. In fact, I can walk to the Annunciation Church right now. And so we had a trans person who rejected their transition because they did it prior to 18. And so now they were 19 or 20, now they were post-18. The brain develops a bit. If you know what synaptic pruning is, it goes up until you're 25. It takes on the gray matter of your brain and efficient, makes your neurons more efficient. Okay. Point is that up until that point, which is why a lot of times you always hear the brain's not developed till 25. And again, that's a small study. I think it's 28 off the top of my head. But that's real science. The point I'm trying to make is that this person killed children, right? We went to Catholic Church. Shout out St. Thomas Aquinas, some name after, so shout the Catholics, real talk. Irish.
Oh wait, do we? Sorry,
on fucking Cape Horn to get to the point with these
I
non sequiturs, Tom.
I stroked out, and when I came back, Tom was trying to divert. So I think I have to mute Tom because he can't help himself.
Church.
Tom, how was the answer to the question? Why should trans kids not have access to the care that cis kids get? How could the answer possibly be, let's talk about the trans person who, by the way, I'm going to ignore the fact, Tom, shut the fuck up, Tom, you can't help yourself. I'm going to completely ignore the fact that, like, the manifesto clearly makes it not about trans issues, but white supremacy issues, and that would be a MAGA issue. It's funny how they want to be like, oh, but that must be in category team trans. How in the world are we going? How does it come from? How does it come from? Okay, Tom. Hey, Tom. The shooter believed that. You know, the manifesto states that. I gotta tell you, hey.
Oh, you laughed. What a good counter argument.
Arden,
you're so smart. What a good little boy you are. You bet your mom is so proud of you, Tom.
Arden, last time you did your, excuse me, Tom, I have to ask Arden a question. Last time you took medication related to your transition, did it make you feel like not enough Jews had died in the Holocaust?
You know, it didn't actually. It did make me feel a little less bummed that day. But I had no feelings related to the Jews.
So Tom, if what you're saying is true, we'll be able to easily point to radical organizations made up of trans people and those behind the trans ideology who center things like the Holocaust should have been worse, right?
I mean, the Zizian cult quite literally is they killed, I think.
Who?
The Zizian cult. You haven't heard the Zizians? The transgender cult murdering people that this person was a part of? Yeah. Look it up.
It's just fun that you think that, like, this tiny group, whatever answer you're going to come up with, it's funny how,
Mickey Mouse.
Tom, it's funny how you think that a tiny group, as though if I were to sit here and go, like, Christians are bad because, shut the fuck up, Tom. How is it possible that you think you're participating in a conversation if you can't let a person finish their point? You know that you're not. You know that you're not actually here for a back and forth because you haven't let anybody finish the point. No, you are not. You are here. You are here to have an emotional breakdown.
Yes or no? Can you answer my question?
And shout the things out.
I didn't do that with you. Be respectful.
No, I'm not going to be respectful of you, you fucking little bigoted twerp. Tom, I don't give a shit about you. Tom, you know what? Tom, here's what we're going to do. Here's what we're going to do, Tom. I haven't done it up until this point, but I will now. I'm going to mute you because you're not capable of shutting the fuck up. You think that the line of respectful is whether or not an insult goes out? I don't know. I think the line of respectful is, can I get to the period in my sentence? Can I have my question answered instead of responded back with a straw man of my position, but also from an irrelevant position? This whole, like, it's like you are like a Mormon. I wouldn't be surprised if you are, in fact, a Mormon, where it's like, oh, I'm out here advocating for everybody to lose their rights, and I hope that these families get broken up, and I hope that everybody has, like, I want to make their depression worse, their anxiety worse. I want to make their outcomes worse, but I never said a swear word, so you're the problem because you said fuck. Did you just say fuck? So, Tom, if you're going to continue here, you have to actually engage in a back and forth. Otherwise, we're just going to find out which one of us is better at being an asshole. And I've got 7 years of really good practice. Am I up to 8 now? I doubt you can beat me in a roast off. Plus, it's unbalanced. I can mute you and call you whatever I want to you and hear nothing back. I'll cheat. I don't give a fuck. And I'm not even trans. I'll cheat at this sport, and I'm cis as fuck. Because that's, by the way, it's funny how the massive amount of cheating that happens in sports is actually cis people, but these same people who care about the trans people in sports do not have a fucking opinion on all of the cis cheating in sports. But anyway, here we'll now unmute Tom. Tom, are you capable, or are you just going to be a fucking asshole?
Okay, I'm capable. I got to say, your joke about I forget it now, but I thought I wasn't muted, and I thought you had a funny joke there in the middle of your little tirade, so.
Thanks. I was really worried that you thought it was funny, so that helps. It's very affirming.
I see this whole sarcasm. It doesn't need to be there. I was being genuine. My bad. But one thing I want to make clear, and now
no, you fucking weren't. You little liar.
No,
that's funny. You actually made me laugh with that one because it was so fucking obviously bullshit. But that was pretty good.
You had a funny joke back there too, Tom.
Okay. Honestly, who cares? I genuinely was being, because I forget the point is I was being serious. But let's just move on. My thing is that I want to make it clear. When you got tired before you muted me, and then I'll let you have the floor, about how I don't care about you. Why should that's so affirming. You understand why Wisconsin, Michigan, the Rust, Pennsylvania went red? Because of people like me are going. We see these extremes, and we see that. No. Let me finish my sentence. Please.
Oh, I can't say Tom. I can't say Tom.
I'm sorry. I'm a lifelong person who's voted less down ticket. Less down ticket. I was raised by liberals. I was raised with those values. I'm a Minnesotan. I'm proud at that.
Wait, you think leftism and liberalism are the same?
You feel really cool because your dad is so disappointed in you, right?
Get one thing in. My point is that
I don't know. You've interrupted us this whole call. Do you really deserve the dignity or the respect?
It's the reason you guys lost.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. Tell me about it.
Interesting, Tom, because you know what doesn't support that? Any data. The reason why the liberals lost, because when you say you guys, I'm a leftist, I'm not a liberal, fuck the liberals, they're disgusting, and they really created their own loss there. But I still voted for them because lesser of two evils. Tom, the reason why they lost was because Donald Trump actually acknowledged that they were hurting and promised change. He lied about it, but that's what happened. Whereas the liberals tried to go like, what do you shut the fuck up, Tom? Tom,
let me get a period in. Let me get a period in.
Tom, shut the fuck up. I'm not done with my goddamn point. It was absolutely, there's no data to back up what you're saying. You can actually look at exit polling, what people actually voted on. Trans stuff is way. All right. Because you can't you fucking cannot resist. Donald Trump acknowledged their pain. Kamala Harris tried to say, no, the economy's good. Look at these numbers I have. As people were like, gas is high, prices are high. No, but we did better than, which is true, but a terrible delivery. We did better on inflation than the rest of the world. Therefore, it's not an issue. With no hard good and here's what we're going to do, because inflation you can't reverse without a recession. So my plan has to be to increase your wages. So here's how we're going to do it. Where Donald Trump went out and lied. And Donald Trump said grocery prices will go down. Donald Trump said the gas prices will go down. He's right now saying that. He's right now claiming that they did go down, and his own supporters on Truth Social going, who is telling him this? They are still more expensive. He said the cost of something this week was in half of what it used to be, and it's actually gone up another several percentage points. So that is why they won, because at the end of the day, Tom, just like women's sports, they don't actually give a fuck about anything but whether or not they think their lot in life is going to improve. So you can assert this is why they lost as much as you like, but you can't prove it. I, however, Tom, called the election a year in advance before it that Biden was going to lose. At that time, we thought it would be Biden because I was tracking the fact that demographic support, since you were trying to yell about black men there at the end, Tom, that demographic support was shifting and that it had a lot to do with the fact that our side, quote unquote, the side that I was going to end up voting for, was ignoring these problems and that demographic shift would be our downfall. The day before the election happened, I put out what I have so far seen. I have not yet seen a person predict the election better than me. I was off by 2 states, only 2. So Tom, you sitting here and acting like there's some awareness you have that I don't is very funny because I can prove in every way that the stats don't back up your shit, and whatever you think I haven't noticed ain't shit either. But if you're going to sit there and try and lecture us on, well, voters really want to vote over this tiny myopic thing that does not affect most of their lives, damn, that sucks that you think the electorate is that stupid and that unwinnable. But personally, I suspect there is a future in which we can actually win on the basis of both meeting people where they're at and telling them the truth without trying to gaslight them into thinking they're doing better than they can. Tom, I'm unmuting you now. Make your final point. You have 2 seconds. Go.
Okay.
Thank you.
Tom,
I didn't care about the rest. I just didn't give a shit about the rest. I don't know don't know which order to take these in. I guess I just want to get this one over with. Nate's about to break my heart because I like Nate. Nate, don't do it. We could talk about anything else. Don't break my heart, Nate. Don't do it. Nate, you're on the line.
No. Oh, what's going on, guys? No, I'm not going to break you. You know me. I agree with you 1,000% when it comes to trans rights. You know, I hate Donald Trump. I'm on a show every Friday where they're calling me an idiot because I always tell them I hate Donald Trump. But as a matter of fact, I've marched for LGBTQ rights. So I am on your side. But there's
the thing. We've watched Game of Thrones. Everything before the butt doesn't matter, Nate. Come on, dude.
That doesn't matter. The only thing that we have a disagreement on is obviously is trans women in women's sports. And there is some disagreement also on transitioning before puberty. I do have some concerns about that, but that's really more of a mental capacity for the children and even the informity of the parents. But if a doctor comes and says this is something, then I would agree. Let that family deal with their own health crisis or issue. And I would just trust the medical professionals to make that best choice. So I really wouldn't get involved in that, especially politically. But the issue of women, of cis women competing with trans women in sports, I do take issue to, and I do think it's a losing issue. But I'm in unfortunately my sphere is right leaning, so I feel like I'm in a echo chamber. So there's not really any good rebuttals to the argument that trans women shouldn't compete with real women. So I wanted to hear what you guys had to say about the topic and see if my points are convincing, or if you guys think that I'm maybe not thinking about it in a logical way.
Can I ask what you think my position is on trans women in sports? Because or maybe better yet, I should just tell you what my position is on trans women in sports, and you can tell me what objection you actually have to that. Because I think
sure,
it's pretty hard to disagree that
should I lay out my
my
position again? Because if I lay out my position, you can just tell me we agree. So for instance, I believe it's really, we're talking about a puberty advantage in terms of biology, right? When men and women go through puberty, men get the advantage of testosterone, just saying it simply for the audience. And then there's obviously a performance gap. And that performance gap you can see, for instance, I like to use the example of Jackie Jonah Kersey. She's the fastest woman to ever run the 100-meter race. And she would lose in a high school track meet. And that's just because of the biological differences. And that performance gap we believed could be overcome with hormone therapy. But I don't know if you guys were aware, but the Air Force has been a lot of studies to show that there are some irreversible traits like skeletal size, hip angles, tendons, and muscle mass that can't be overcome. So people like Caitlyn Jenner and other trans activists also admit that these other kind of built-in after puberty traits can't really be reversed, and that tend to lead to the unfair advantage, as it's called, on the right. So that's seemingly my position until we get more research to essentially overcome that maybe ignorance in that. Then we should again pause on allowing this until we know for sure if there is an unfair advantage or not. So what do you guys think?
Yeah, real quick aside, I would not ever categorize Caitlyn Jenner as a trans activist. She is a trans person, but that is neither here nor there. So I think, generally speaking, what I'm advocating for I want objective criteria for fairness in sport that apply equally to everyone, right? So I think it's pretty clear that, well, sure, when we're talking about in populations, on average, right, in a normative sense, male puberty is going to confer some athletic advantages to people assigned male at birth who go through that puberty. It's not universal. It's not across the board. Not everyone gets all those advantages. And so if we're proposing policies that ban trans women from competing in women's sports, right, we're potentially banning people who do not possess an advantage because they are a part of a group where they might hypothetically possess an advantage. And while sure, we can talk about averages and statistics, what I advocate for is I want policies where athletes are evaluated on an individual basis. by objective criteria, and that cis and trans women are included and excluded based on those criteria, not blanket proposals, blanket solutions, inclusion or exclusion. I would rather have some sort of objective criteria. Because, I mean, there are trans women who don't go through male puberty, who are able to access care early, who, don't possess any measurable advantage. I also take some issue with the Air Force studies you're referencing. The data's what they got. The data was good, but it was a really small sample size. I also think that specific sample even showed that trans women weren't identical to cis men, even pre-HRT at a baseline when they were measured. So I think it's also a mistake when we're just kind of saying like, oh, trans women are males, therefore they should be considered as males in every sense. Like, I think even that study showed that trans women weren't equivalent to biological men out of baseline for our athletic performance. And I think there's a number of reasons, sociological and physical and all those things, that could go into why that is the case. But I don't understand why it is this why people who are against trans women in sports want this blanket inclusion or exclusion. Why are we so opposed to evaluating athletes on an individual basis, as is was the criteria for so much time? If we find out that the criteria is not good enough, then fair enough, we can change and adapt. But I'm not actually seeing good evidence for that. Like, everyone points to the Air Force study as the only study on this. And unfortunately, the Tangerine Palpatine in charge is destroying all funding for research. So I don't know that we're going to get good research on this, like, in the near future.
Yeah. So Nate, the things I would add here are a couple things. One, trying to go to this direction of going with the total ban. First of all, even when you're describing like skeleton size, that could give an advantage. And so if that advantage is something that can't be mitigated for and isn't an advantage that somebody can get normally as a cis woman as well, we're banning across all sports for something that advantage wouldn't necessarily be present in. But as you're saying, we should start at the position of banning all and get more studies and then figure out who can come back in. That's a wild take to me, because I think you and I both know, as long as trans women ever win, it wouldn't be a matter of like just mitigating. As long as this is mostly being fed by people who, Nate, I mean, obviously at the beginning you tried to express what your general support is, but you are not the normal person who is driving against trans people in sports. It will only be if we have somehow mitigated it to the point that trans women never win and are never competitive in sports. Just like right now, it kind of is happening in men's sports, which is why nobody gives a fuck. Nobody's saying no trans men in sports, because trans men aren't winning basically ever in sports. That this is where it's like, you and I think, can both say honestly, I hope you wouldn't disagree, if we do your way, they'll never be unbanned, even if you have great objective data. And that actually right now, the data we do have shows that there can be sufficient mitigation in most sports. And if anything, where those studies become necessary to check out might be, for example, with the last caller. What about the situation of that specific athlete may or may not have, and then we study that to figure out if there's an adjustment that needs to be made. And that the quickest version of everybody being included starts with inclusion, not exclusion, and then basically going like, now you wait until you've justified your way on this list. And Nate, I have to say, a lot of the arguments that you're making, you and I know each other. You and I know that both each other can't stand when people go too close to identity politics instead of having a good argument. But I do feel like you're ignoring that a lot of the arguments you're making right now are the same racial arguments that were made for people of different races in different sports in the past, and wanting segregation first, where clearly integration first is the superior way.
Yeah, well, there are a lot of points that I think I would like to address. First, I think when we were talking first about the burden, right? The burden. We generally, as of right now, segregate just based on sex. And it seems like we're trying to now be more inclusive, but try to mitigate that based on sex piece. And I think requiring essentially.
Nate, can I jump in? Because I think
sure, no problem.
If you're going to say something I blatantly disagree with, I want to make sure we don't go on to the next thing. Our primary segregation
I know.
in sports is gender or sex secondary. Ability is the first. I don't get to go and play in the NFL because I can't fucking throw a football or catch one or take a tackle. So the very first layer of sports segregation is ability. And then in a lot of sports, it's like weight classes and the like you don't get to bypass those things. So as far as segregation goes, segregations go, on ability is quite a bit different than on identity. And the ability segregation, what are we going to do? Get rid of, should I be able to play NFL without proving my ability? Nobody's advocating for that.
Well, yeah, I'm not, I wasn't going down that road. So for instance, whenever any sports league starts, right, the first thing they do is segregate based on sex, and then they deal with ability. So I'm just saying, in the process, right, boys go over here, if you go to any gym class, that's the first thing they do. They segregate based on sex, and then they'll practice abilities. They'll go through abilities. But first, let me tell us where we agree. I think the blanket policy of segregation, of saying no trans women in any sports, that is wrong, because if you contextualize it, just like you guys were saying, if someone did transition before puberty, they won't have any of those advantages. And I know a lot of people on the right would say, don't let them compete anyway. And I think that's ridiculous, because the advantages before puberty, my daughter plays with boys in her soccer league, because they essentially are the same. Matter of fact, in some studies, actually, girls outperform boys before puberty. It's really after puberty. So I do agree, contextualize it. It would be silly to have someone, I think that happened in Texas, where there was a young woman who transitioned before puberty to become for testosterone, and had all those physical advantages. But Texas said, hey, you have to play with the women, and that person won everything. And I was like, well, that's not unfair. That's unfair, because I wanted to play with the guys that trans male. So I do understand that piece of it, and I 100% agree. A blanket policy doesn't help anyone. But I would also say I disagree with the burden shifting here, because I think you have the policies in place right now. It's up to the person who wants to change that policy to show that there isn't this unfair advantage, or there isn't this piece to it, especially after the puberty, because that's really what we're talking about. We're talking about performance after puberty. And I think all of the data and everything does show that advantage is there even on hormone blockers, even after hormone blockers. And I also will agree with that. If trans women didn't win,
are you saying across the board, all sports, you think that the data shows that even with HRT, biological males have an advantage if they've gone through puberty? Because it sounds like what you just said, and I don't think the data even comes close to agreeing with you.
Well, instead of saying all sports, I will say, and like something like 90% of sports, if you just look at the times, because we're not, a lot of times when you talk about this, people will say something like, hey, I can't beat a woman who runs a marathon. I probably couldn't beat her 10 meters down the street, because I'm just, I just don't run. That's just not my thing. So not all men can beat all women. But we're talking about athletes who, as you mentioned earlier, are segregated by ability. So when you're talking about the top athletes, or even in high school, college, whatever, then there is this separation between men's performance and women's performances. And I think, as you guys astutely said earlier, trans women kind of come in between. They're not really, again, from what you see, they can't compete with the men, because obviously the hormone therapy hurts their performance. But then there's an issue where you still have the body of a male body that gives you an advantage over women. So I think we're trying to figure out how to deal with that versus just a blanket. And right now, the right says blanket bland, and the left says blanket let them in. And I think it's a little more.
That's not true. Blanket left them in is not of the left position.
Yeah. Also, I just want to respond to
I've seen that.
The whole male body thing you just dropped, where you're like, oh, even after they still have the male body. I think there's some research, and admittedly, the research in this field is just like almost non-existent. Like, it's really hard to come to any empirical conclusions on this topic from any perspective. But there is some research, it's been a while since I read it, that suggested that there are certain domains of athleticism where actually trans women underperform cis women after hormones, specifically because this whole, they still have the male body. Well, when you actually start having female fat and muscle distribution on a frame that went through male puberty, those distributions can be really off. And like, I think there's a lot of hypothesizing going on here about why exactly these data look the way they do. But my understanding is some of the conclusions people were coming to is things like, yes, when you have a taller frame, like skeletal frame, but then you have feminine muscle fat distribution, it makes your use of that body not the same and not effective. And sure, I would agree that I could testify to you that having gone through puberty blockers as a teenager and hormone therapy, my body does not work the way it did when I was on testosterone, right? Not at all. But that I am definitely an individual. But I do think there's some data out there that seems to suggest that, the way that affects your performance can actually be really complex due to the different developmental influences going on there.
And Nate, I'm sitting here faced with two things. One, I mean, we've all heard the phrase, the exceptions make the rule, and universally across the board, like the list that people have seem more like a list of exceptions and in potentially even exceptions. Like, okay, there's a place more study might be needed, and more study would be the, again, better way to do it, because if we segregate now, the bar of bringing them back in will be way too high and probably will just eliminate them from, and in the meantime, lead to worse conclusions. But they seem to be so exception heavy. But also, you're a lawyer. I know that, I assume anyway, that you're familiar with like different argument methods. And the one I'm thinking of here, I think, is called hypothetico-deductive reasoning. But essentially it's, here's the claim. What would we expect to be true if the claim was true? Like, what would you expect to see external? So if the claim is true that we aren't mitigating, that these advantages aren't mitigated, you would expect to see trans domination at such higher levels than is actually present, and it not be this sort of exception to the rule sort of things. And it not be like every time people freak out about a record a trans person sets, a cis person sets. And so the one that we pointed to earlier is the one that's the simplest. I don't know what the exact number is. Let me look it up. What number of trans women have competed at the Olympic level? Because
I think it's really low.
Sure, I don't think it's high. I don't think it's high either. But let's see. Openly trans women. I
only know of one openly trans woman who's been in the Olympics, and that was Laurel Hubbard in the 2020 Tokyo Olympics. She placed 11th for weightlifting in the women's division.
So we're describing even a thing of like, they've been allowed to be in the Olympics. Only one managed to qualify and go. And there are 0 gold medals out of trans people in the Olympics. They're not even qualifying to go to the Olympics.
And I think also that one in particular is telling, because if we possess any advantage from male puberty, you would think it would be in weightlifting, because people tend to, generalize these sorts of things. Like the weightlifting would be one where in theory you would expect a domination to occur if it were to occur, but Laurel Hubbard came in 11th place. Like, I don't think she even completed 2 of her lifts.
So it's like we're hitting these points where it's like, again, if we're using that hypothetico-deductive thing. Here's the claim. Here's what we'd expect it to be true. And then what do we actually find is true? They're not winning the Olympics. They're not. And then where they are winning, they aren't outperforming. Like, people act like they're setting these crazy records. And yet every time we hear about a record getting broken, it's usually a local high school record. That's the number one that comes up. And it turns out that local high school record was not amongst all high school records, even close to the top. And then somebody immediately beats it. Or in the case, I believe this happened with Leah Thomas at a higher competitive level, where she beat a record and then a cis woman beat it. So this is the point, Nate, when you're not just asking about whether it's fair or not fair, because clearly the answer isn't a blatant and obvious yes or no. I think you acknowledge and recognize the the difference that we're only really worried about the women in sports, not trans men and men's sports, because their disadvantage there seems to be so obvious, so clear. So when it comes to women's sports, that's the one that we're caring about. So now, do we tell a group of people based on their identity when right now, if we're using that model of reasoning, we actually can't see that there is so much of a problem we can't fix and adjust as we go, that we should segregate everybody out, take this away from everybody, and then maybe give it back if, again, a team full of people who don't actually care whether you mitigate it, they care whether or not there was a penis there when they were born, because that would make them feel gay if they find those people attractive still. Like that's the core of a lot of these people's transphobia. Those are the people that would be, for the most part, voting for this and changing their vote because the science got better. These are people who, what is it still? 60% of Americans believe that Noah's flood happened. I'm sorry, I don't trust American sentiment over the medical and scientific sentiment. And I don't trust us to not find somebody to be bigoted toward. And this seems like it would be just an extension of bigotry. And so for all of those reasons, I can't agree with you at all that we segregate these sports. And I don't agree that the leftist position is unmitigated access. The South Park meme, the reason why that episode was annoying is they usually are better at least representing the other side, what they're actually saying. And that one was just stupid. It was literally just a man grew out his hair. And they believe that that's what the left is saying. Yeah, go and compete. I don't know of anybody at a serious level who isn't a 15-year-old Redditor who has that position.
Well, I don't want to overgeneralize either side's position, but you guys touched on a couple of things. For instance, small numbers and small sample sizes. Essentially, you made the argument that trans women don't win everything, but then you kind of then hit me with it's a very kind of popular. Yeah, but then you hit me with the thing is a tiny population. There's like 10 in the NCAA, so it's kind of like you developed an argument. And then it was easy for you to win the argument because you're right. There just isn't. So if there was this massive piece to it, then I would understand that. But one or two individuals making headlines like Leah Thomas or Fallon Fox, I think it raises the issue of, well, is this fear based on what we already know? Now we're talking about the segregation, and you kind of coached it in a way where we're segregating now as a response, but I believe we've always segregated the sports solely based on sex. And now we're talking about changing that segregation into something different. And
Nate, you mean just in the last couple of decades, right? Because you know the other thing they used to segregate on. For those who don't know, because Nate's calling in, Nate is a black man. And so this is why it's awkward to bring this up. But we haven't always.
You're talking about because it's not. Yeah, I'm not talking about. Well, I'm not talking about race. I'm talking about Title IX, right? Because it's illegal to segregate on race now, based on the Constitution and based on the law. But it's still not illegal to segregate on gender, and that's Title IX. Title IX specifically demands segregation on gender. And matter of fact, it doesn't demand, and this is one of the things that people don't really understand about, let's say, something like Title IX. It actually doesn't demand segregation of men's leagues. So when we say men's sports and women's sports, it's actually a misnomer. When we say men's sports, we're talking about what's known as the open category. Anyone can compete in men's sports, women, men, it doesn't actually matter. And the reason why is that it's the unprotected class. So that's why you'll see sometimes like a woman kicker in a NCAA football game, right? Who will kick a field goal, and it's like it's news because there is no bar to entry on the men's side. The only restriction is for the women's side, and that's been from Title IX's inception. So what I say that is that now I won't say you guys, but I believe there's now people who are saying, well, since we want to now open this up. We want to change this thinking. We're saying we want to allow these people who biologically fit this criteria and would be ineligible to compete in this category. And the people who are saying, well, we don't know if that's the way to go. First thing I'll say is, well, let's see the evidence. Let's see what the studies say. And then you guys have said there's no studies. We'll say, well, what does the data say? There's not really a lot of data. So it's interesting because like the burden of proof has shifted where you're saying, well, let's make this change, but I have no evidence to show that this change is sufficient, but then it's like, well, we should make the change without that evidence. So I think in that type of situation, instead of shifting the burden, maybe it would be that's the point we need. We need to show that evidence. We need to say, hey, this is the reason why the law is wrong. This is the reason why everybody's assumptions about this is wrong. And that biology, this would be fair to both the athlete and the sport. And I want to make it very clear. I definitely agree that the blanket policies now may be too overbroad. And I think it's a reaction. But I do also believe that a more contextualized, individualized, like this person doesn't have disadvantages because of these reasons. And I think the Trump administration, what they're currently doing now, where it's just like, let's pull down your pants, let's look what you got between your legs. I think that's a naive way to do it versus, well, did this person transition before puberty? Did this person transition after puberty? And what are those advantages? And I do also want to make it very clear. There are exceptions and there are rules. And it seems like we can't say just because this person lost and happened to be trans, that should then justify the rule for everyone. And we shouldn't say just because this person won and is trans should justify the rule. I think science and evidence should get us there.
You recognize the second point is the one that they're using to block people off. That it is, hey, here is my small group of trans people who won, therefore no trans people.
Oh yeah, no, I definitely agree that is the position, but okay. I do agree.
I have two questions then.
Too, right?
Oh, go first, Arden, and then I've got two questions for you.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, and when you're saying like, oh, well, I agree with like the individual evaluation approach, like that's what trans activists have advocated for, and that's what most sports leagues had in place before the Trump administration started threatening schools with losing funding for all of their education, lest they change the policy to a blanket restrictive one, right? Almost all of these schools, all of these leagues had policies that was like, your testosterone has to be below a certain nanomoles per liter for a period of 6 months or longer before you are allowed to compete. So like, to be clear, it was an individual evaluation policy before it was changed to this blanket restrictive policy that Trump wants to be enforced everywhere. But sorry, go ahead, Jimmy.
So here's my first question for you.
Just to respond.
Go ahead.
Oh, no, but can I respond? I just want to respond to that point. I think we're talking about two different things, because if you're saying the effectiveness of some post-pubescent transition, in other words, they're taking hormones and things after, and they're saying that is not effective to disallow for the advantage. I think that's different than someone who transitioned before puberty and don't have any of those advantages, because I think that's a better argument. Though the one that you just made, I think is the issue, because but if they meet the criteria,
then what's the problem?
But today, exactly. The problem is that the women who are in there would say that's not fair. That criteria isn't fair. Before puberty, that criteria is fair. After puberty, that criteria isn't
People
fair.
From the powerful group have often said untrue things.
Right.
Like, I'm sorry, I just don't really value this argument, because like Jimmy keeps trying to appeal to like race segregation, and it's the same thing. No, but it doesn't mean it's not true, but it also doesn't make it true, right? It does. You're saying it doesn't make it not true, sure, but that you're defaulting to like adjusting the policy for it as if it were true, and it doesn't do either thing. So why are we changing the rule? You said it's on the person who wants to change the policy to make the case. The policy has been this way for 20 years, no epidemic of trans people taking over sports. What's the justification for restricting the policy? Because you agree, as we've already talked about, the research on this stuff is very limited. There's not a lot of good data out there on this. There's some data that supports kind of middle of the road positions, but like there's really no good data on this in general. So I don't know. I have to run to the bathroom though, so I'll let Jimmy do his run.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm up to 3 questions now, and I have to hope. It's a little. I actually wanted Arden to hear this part, but it's okay. She'll be back soon. So can we agree? So since we're talking about an identity-based segregation, that at whatever level, whoever the institution is that performs the ban. So whether we're saying it's at the professional college sports or whatever, or if the government's doing it, if they're going to put in a segregative ban, that should have an expiration date, and they would be responsible for justifying that ban We'll just start there. That they would be responsible for justifying the ban, and the ban should expire at some point.
All right, so I just want to make sure I understand the question. So you're saying if there is a ban placed, they should justify why they're banning?
Yeah, we'll just start there. Forget the expiration thing, because the expiration thing probably needs a little more context. So the first question is, whoever does the ban should be justifying the ban, correct?
Yes. So I believe in this place. This is where I think we may have the issue.
I've got more. It might be easier if I keep doing
out of mind, right?
If we can just go with a little bit of like Socratic thing for a second.
I'll follow you. Yes,
okay.
Yes, you're right. All right. Instead of long answers, yes.
So if that institution is justifying it, we should also have some amount of time where if they are not able to come up with sufficient evidence against mitigating information, that ban should expire. Therefore, that institution essentially should be responsible for finding the evidence to justify this segregation. Would that be correct? To maintain a ban, not just unlimited, say this is why I want to do it, so it's a ban forever, that also they would need to justify the maintaining of that ban and be given some period of time to do so before it would, if they don't attempt it at all, it should just go away.
Yes, so there's a ban, justify the ban, and if you can't justify the ban, then the ban will go away. Yes, I agree with that.
At what level, what institution do you think that ban should come out? Do you think it should be the government should say, as far as like public sports? What's the highest level that this ban should exist at? I assume it's the government, but I don't want to put words in your mouth.
As of right now, it would be the government, because the government has instituted the ban. Yes.
So even you sitting here saying, here's why I would like the ban or whatever, would you at least then commit to, as far as your support goes, that you will actually oppose the ban if the government will not commit to funds to objective studies and a timeline to restore access to people who have not been explicitly disqualified by objective data? In other words, the government says, we're just going to ban, we're not going to study it, we're just going to take this access away from people, fuck them. You will oppose that at the very least, right?
So if the government just makes a blanket ban without any reason, just say we're going to ban
not without any reason, without a commitment of funding to prove their position and to actually objectively study the trans advantage in sports, and even to seek to figure out which sports, I would say it should be that level. What would you need to do to be able to be confident of the mitigation of an advantage and try and restore that? Their goal should be to restore it to as many people as possible on the basis of eliminating the advantage. And if they aren't doing that, then it would be purely anti-civil rights, and therefore that would be my position, and therefore that ban would be reprehensible.
I don't know. It's a little hard to follow, because I think I understand where you're going with this, because maybe I should say it from the way I'm understanding it. There was a ban put in place in the 60s, right? And it was based on biology. If you're X or if you're Y. That ban was just to protect women in sports. Now that ban has been in place, and recently we've wanted to change that ban. And there's been people who saying we want to change that ban. And for instance, like on the Daily Show, I know you guys are trying to say that one side is being more contextualized, but on the Daily Show, there was an activist who went and straight up said, no, it should just be an open door. But and I think that's things like that kind of turn people like, hold on, there's nothing but going back to what
the fact that I don't know who you're talking about, and I watch the Daily Show, I think means that this is a myopic example. It doesn't matter much. Yeah.
Oh no, it's got millions of views. I'll put. She was actually she
millions of views doesn't matter, because but there are millions of views of lots of dumb statements people have made. So one, do I accept that your interpretation of what they're saying is correct? I don't know. And two, is it the popularity of it because it's the popular position? In other words, if it has 1 billion views, is it 1 billion leftists going, yes, I love this, or 1 billion right-wing people going, ew, screw this T-slur asshole or whatever? That's the question.
So just so you know, it was Dr. Veronica Ivy, who's a trans woman, and she went on a Daily Show to explain this topic. And she is a trans activist, and her
she's not us,
position
right?
is strictly
Yeah, but I'm just saying,
I'm saying you were asking me about the trans activist. Mm-hmm.
Okay, no, that's fine. I was just trying to figure out why it's relevant because she's not us, and if we disagree with her position, then okay.
No. All right. So what I was saying is that you're trying to coach the conversation. Like no one on the left or no one on your side of the aisle has been saying that, which I just
it took me 10 seconds to pull it up. That I don't know what she said on the clip, but her position is that the IOC position and the governing body positions, which require hormone therapy and set testosterone thresholds, is the best framework. So as far as if you were saying that what I said was wrong, that they just want anybody in, if she said something in opposition to that on the Daily Show, I can't speak for it, but I have her quotes in front of me now. Thanks to Perplexity, I can find all of her work so quickly. That's not her current position.
I would also never say nobody on the left thinks this or anything like that. I would never make a general statement like that because we live in the age of the internet and you can find someone online who agrees with literally any position.
Yeah. I've had Santa defended.
So just to be clear, so I don't want to overcorrect for the right and I don't want to overcorrect for the left, but there are people on both sides, one's total ban and I do agree that on the right, mostly total ban is probably the more popularized position.
Right, but let's talk
total everybody in on the left.
At this point, even if you told me what Jill Stein voters believe, I would tell you that's too myopic of a leftist position because Jill Stein people are not great at thinking.
I don't want to. Yeah, because but we're getting sidetracked because I want to just get back to your original point, and this is where I think the burden shift comes in. Is that right now we have, the policy is what it is. It's been this way for X amount of years, and now we have a burden shift. We're saying, okay, we want to now extend this, open this up to another group of people who we believe should be in this category, but who were banned based on the rules as they were set. And now we're saying there's not enough evidence. There's not this, there's not that, and as you're saying now, the Trump administration is not even looking forward to it. But what they're saying is, which again, my interpretation of it is that until we have the evidence, until we have the thing to actually change it, until you reach that burden to tell me why this isn't an advantage or why this what we think is not happening, then we're going to continue on as is until that proof is. And again, it is the
Nate,
law.
Again,
so what I'm saying is that.
But Nate, you're skirting the question, and you're going back to a point that's not as far as who the burden goes to. If you are going to take a situation where what information we do have indicates that the problem, if there is one, is not excessive. Again, they're not dominating sports. They're not even qualifying for the Olympics. Across the board, they're not maintaining and the only ones with the records. There's a lot already that we can indicate with existing data. It doesn't seem like it's an issue. So now from a human civil rights position, if you're going to say, exclude X group from this group that they belong to. If it's women's sports, they are women. Exclude this group on the basis of their identity. The burden of the proof, of course, would be on the people who say that the advantage is present and not the people saying seek to include everybody as much as possible at the government level, because the government level should not be an institution trying to figure out who should be playing sports in the first place. Like this is where the burden, as far as the burden coming on, certainly the burden of actually justifying segregation on a non-arbitrary basis, right? Because this isn't like it's some silly thing somebody's come up with. Oh, you guys don't have enough furry representation in sports, right? Nobody's doing that. We're talking about women who are women, but they're trans women. And they're being on the basis of their identity excluded. That's where the evidence should be coming in. And again, why we keep talking about other previous civil rights issues that it's hard to like sit here and be like, Nate, of course you must see that parallel. But the actual question was, would you oppose any ban which does not come with a commitment? Would you oppose a Trump ban knowing that he has defunded all trans research?
No, I wouldn't support that. I wouldn't support defunding of all trans research.
No, but the ban, ridiculous. I'm saying, would you still support the ban if he tomorrow said, we're doing the ban for that sports reason, the same reason you, but has also defunded this research that, one, if he was right, would validate him, And if he's wrong, we'd be, or not even if he's wrong, it would just lead to us finding out what additional changes we need to make to mitigate. He's gotten rid of all of that. He's gotten rid of all of that. So would you at least say you wouldn't support Donald Trump banning sport because he has exited the conversation of actually justifying that ban and not giving trans people a way to actually, I don't know what rich trans lobby is going to go do the studies. And then even if they did, people would literally be like, yeah, but trans people did the studies, so these aren't legit.
Yeah, so I think I understand what your criticism is, which I think is a fair point. Whereas that if you're going to ban this category and then stop all the studies, then essentially you're saying that you don't even want to know the answer if this is true or not. And I would say yes.
And they suspect it's not true, because if they suspected it was true, they'd fund the fuck out of it.
But I would also say that you're saying we should change the rules and based off kind of not, because it seems like
I'm kind of good with the current rules.
The same thing. We're all agreeing. It seems like, well, the current rules is the ban, right? They've NCAA banned, like the current rules are.
Oh, okay. I thought we were talking about at the government level. I liked the IOC stuff. I like the Olympic stuff, but you're right. They are shifting all of those things. I don't think the government should be telling people what sports they can play.
But also, these groups didn't change their policy. They didn't cite, we just got this new study and this is why we're doing it. Like, to be so super fucking clear, the reason the IOC changed their policy is because they want to have the Olympics in LA. Is it next year or something like that? And Trump was threatening to withhold funding. So this wasn't about we have good information. This was about capitulating to a fascist, because if they don't, they wouldn't be able to do this thing that is a big global event that's important to a lot of people.
Would you agree, Nate, that the simplest answer to why they've defunded it is that they think that the data will contradict the position they want to support? Isn't that the simplest answer?
Oh, I don't.
I'm not saying you have to say that's correct. I'm saying isn't that the simplest explanation for why?
All right, so yes, it may be the simplest explanation why, but I'll say from the perspective, because I hang out with a lot of Trumpers, and from their perspective, the answer is clear. It's just like, hey, there are men's bodies, there are women. The answer for them are clear. There's no more research needed to answer the question.
But Trumpers are anti-vaccine.
I believe, yes, there's more research needed.
I'm not saying
no, but that's unfair, because Nate, I don't believe all of them are, like, I know these are people who take vaccines, but I
Nate,
agree.
Should Nick Fuentes get an opinion on which bathroom you use?
No.
Then I don't care if Trumpers think that it's very clear to them what sports trans people should play. How we are going to regulate should have nothing to do with the political positions of people who think that the highest form of biology is the kindergarten cop line. Boys have a penis, girls have a vagina. Like that's as far as they go. So what they see as clear shouldn't matter. And it is their own side that is defunding the ability for them to see more clearly.
I think you're right. I think they've defunded all of that, and I think they could see it clear. And so I would agree with that. But I think our disagreement, and I think it may just be time to say it plainly, is that I believe we're trying to say that we should allow trans women to compete with women until we have some reason to believe otherwise. Is that essentially is
because we already have a basis upon which we don't have
some evidence to believe.
We already have evidence to believe that whatever issue exists is not significant. So don't start with segregation. Fix what issues there are, and don't deny a much larger group of people, because the people even who these issues are coming up with, even amongst trans people, represents less than 1% of the trans athletes themselves, right? So don't ban the other 99% too, because you want this 1% to not have that advantage. Stick with the way we've got it. Things aren't burning down, things aren't falling down, and let trans people have access to sports. Until you have a good reason to disqualify them. Yeah,
I know we're probably getting towards the end of the call, Nate.
Go ahead. Sure,
No,
sure.
it's okay. I was going to ask a completely different question. So say your thing, and then I'll ask my question.
Sure. Oh, no, go ahead, because I know you guys have other callers, so I don't want to monopolize too much of your time. And I want to say thank you, too, because I've learned a lot from this conversation. So. Mm-hmm.
I appreciate it. So I was going to ask, to what extent you think this concern is a serious concern about fairness? Because I think if you were to look up, like, from a human rights organization, what the most pressing issues on women's rights are, and asked the most pressing issues on fairness for women in sports, I would wager that the inclusion of trans people doesn't even crack the top 20. I think there's issues like funding, there's issues like training, pay, access to equipment, cultural relationships to athleticism and gender roles. I think there's, protection from sexual harassment from fans. Hello, WNBA, throwing fucking dildos out onto the court. Protection from sexual harassment by doctors. I think all of these things are very obviously significantly more relevant to women's access and fairness in sports. So I appreciate that this is a conversation that's in the common dialogue. And so that's why I, as a trans person, show up to have these conversations. However, I have never spoken to a single person who's convinced me that this is a serious concern about fairness for women or protection of women. I think if that were true, you would almost never speak about trans people. It would be proportional to the influence it has on the issue, which would be like less than 1% of the issues that I think cis women are facing in athleticism.
Well, so I wrote down, because first, thank you guys for having me on. And we went through a lot, and I have a lot, but I wrote down some of my final thoughts, and I'll just lay them out, and you guys can tell me, what do you think? First, when it comes to women's sports, exist to provide fairness and opportunity to biological women, because we believe and we know, based on science, that men have biological advantages over women. And I believe the counter argument that you guys made, that trans women aren't winning everything. But even if let's say someone wins a second place medal, that does displace everyone else on the roster. And that's Riley Gaines' argument. And that provides unfairness. So the argument that they're not winning everything, I think kind of misses the point. And then I also think about the burden shift. No data to prove that there is no disadvantage. But then on the opposite side, you say, well, with that, without the no data, we should then change like Title IX of the rules to. I think that is just shifting the burden. You're coming from one place. I think adding the saying that this is similar to Black issues, to race issues. I do think there is some similarity, but then I think that in the United States, unfortunately, being a lawyer, we can discriminate based on things like height, sex. Those things are lawful, unfortunately. So that it's lawful, and in some
Nate, when we discriminated on the basis of height and sex, who was the burden on? The segregationists or those who opposed?
Who was the burden on? So when we segregated based on height and sex, you said who was the burden on?
Right. So initially, when we did it based on sex, who had to prove that it was a problem that needed to be segregated for? The segregationists or the non-segregationists? Obviously, the segregationists. Was it not, Nate? Was it not the group who said? I'm not even using it as a negative. I'm not even using it as a negative phrase in this case. The people who justified the initial separation of sports based on sex, was it not the people who supported the segregation who had the burden of proof?
Yeah, of course.
On height, would it not also be the people who want to? Is it not the people who created height classes and weight classes who had to justify the necessity for segregating?
Yes, they had to show why we are segregating, yes.
Then, Nate, the shifting of burden is you that's trying to happen. If you want to justify a segregation, the burden of the segregation is the burden of proof is on you. The thing that you're saying that we're the ones shifting it. Our position is don't segregate. The burden of shifting it is on the people who say do, and that hasn't been met, as you've acknowledged too. There's not enough evidence right now to say that there's a clear picture. So until there is, no segregation.
All right, so just let me get this out. This is where I think our issue is. They have proven the segregation. Back in the 60s when they were putting this Title IX, I'll just get through this quick. Back in the 60s when they were going through Title IX, and they did show that, unfortunately, men and women, they showed the evidence, they showed, and then those who wanted segregation, which were the women who wanted those opportunities, they showed Congress to do this segregation. Now, come back 30 years later, we want to undo that, right? We want to change that segregation. And now,
we want to redefine it. Nate, that's not true. We want to redefine what they justified before, because what you just said isn't totally true. What they justified back then was cis women versus cis men, because nobody cared about trans people in the 60s. So while those words aren't appearing in the stuff, fundamentally, that's what they proved. They did not prove women versus men, because women and men are genders. Male versus female, but specifically cis males and cis females is what they did in the 60s. The fact that they were ignorant of what they were doing is nonwithstanding.
Let me just make it very clear then. It was based all on biology. It didn't, those terms didn't exist. So it was all, if you had
that's what I just said.
And you're a guy, yes. So that was all it is.
They didn't know they were doing something that was because it pre-existed their understanding.
So now, fast forward 20 years. The segregation is still there, men, women. And now we're saying, let's change that. And they're saying, okay, where's the evidence? And the first thing is, there is no evidence. The evidence is not there. It's lacking. It's this. But let's change it anyway. And then when the other side says, well, hold on, without the evidence, why should we make the change? And you're not.
Nate, you just ignored everything I just explained. You just restated with a full ignoring of what I just said.
Maybe that just might just be our communication.
I also just kind of reject this framing here. Like, I think at the time when trans people were added to be included at like the late 90s and early 2000s to most of these sports, that they did meet a burden of proof. And maybe your case is that it actually doesn't mitigate performance as much as we initially thought it did. Fair enough. But the policy was changed to include trans people like 25 years ago. And now you are the one who's advocating for changing the policy again back to what it used to be. So the burden, I think, is still on you.
I think the burden's always on the segregationists, and further refining with the culture. Literally, it is not a matter of like that we actually proved male versus female. We literally proved cis versus cis.
Well, I will say this. I unfortunately, I just disagree. But again, thanks for having me on. And I've got some things to think about, because I really do think that, it's the practicality of it. And I think if you do want to make this change, because it is enshrined in law, it says it right there. I do think you have to make an argument back to the facts. And when you go back and you say, well, we don't really have the evidence, we don't have this, but we still want to make the change. That's what I think people are rejecting. It's like, no, you have to provide the evidence. I
agree. So I look forward to the rule that comes out, the evidence that comes out to defend this new segregation that we're adding. So thanks, Nate. Also, I just want to point out that they didn't ever get an answer to whether or not this is a serious concern about fairness, or any of the other issues that are very obviously significantly more pressing and relevant to fairness in sports and against the discrimination of women, and are far more important to why women's sports are segregated than just penis or vagina.
Do you want to comment on that, Nate, before I give you my last thought?
No, I definitely understand your frustration, and I do understand, because it's like someone's attacking the baseline of this, but what I
no, but Nate, the question is, does this even break the top 10 most concerning things that are affecting the fairness in sports for women, specifically inclusion of trans people?
Oh, of course not. But if that's the case, then there was a whole bunch of things we wouldn't talk about, right?
So
this is important.
Sure.
This is important to some people, but there's yeah, but just because
don't you think it's weird that politically?
No. This is a very nonsense argument.
It's important to some people.
Don't care about it.
Like,
it's important to me. That's why I'm here talking about it. It's important to you. That's what we're talking about.
It's important to some people, and also like the color of the Halloween pumpkins that you put on your porch in October is important to some people. Like, I don't really care if it's important to some people. If they're going to say it's about fairness, and that's why we're justifying adding a new change that segregates trans women away from how it's been for the last like 25 years, then I think they have a burden to show that that is actually a serious concern for fairness. And I don't think that burden has been met. And I think there's a lot of evidence to suggest all those other things that I mentioned, funding, training, equipment, pay, protection from sexual harassment from fans and doctors, are significantly more pressing. And so when somebody says they care about fairness in sport and they reference trans women, I know they're full of shit and they've just consumed propaganda, because it's very obvious the actual concerns for fairness in women's sports have nothing to do with trans people.
I kind of have to disagree with that, because like we were talking about the Olympics, the first trans person to be in the Olympics was like 2022 or something like that, just very recently. And so you guys are trying to make it seem like this has been the rule for X amount of times, and we just
it has been the rule. Like, it was changed in like 2002.
Let me finish. Biden recently, but Biden, when he was president back in 2022 or to 2021, wrote an executive order actually trying to change Title IX and how it was interpreted to include trans women, because the courts had said, hey, it obviously doesn't, obviously this violates Title IX. So he passed an executive order to reshape the interpretation of it. So now, so to say that happened 25 years ago, and that's somking that wasn't in place.
I didn't say that happened 25 years ago.
Well, I'm saying, but that the rule hasn't been that. Biden changed it particularly.
The rule
like
has been that.
2022.
According to the IOC, sports organizations have had that rule.
Then we're talking about different rules, because I'm talking about Title IX. So I would say in 2022 the rule changed, but let's not say that this rule was different. And that rule was overturned.
This rule has been that. You're just wrong. I mean, you're just factually wrong. These rules have been in place since the late 90s and early 2000s in almost every sports league. So this has been that way.
The reason why Biden's executive order was overturned, because he did not have, there was no evidence that was presented to show that this didn't violate Title IX. And then they said, well, this violates Title IX. So we're going to keep the segregation. So I understand what you're saying, but that's just not factually incorrect. The rule has always been segregation, and they're trying to change that rule as of
the rule hasn't always been segregation. The new interpretation of the rule is that it should have been that way. Maybe you can make that case, but you cannot say the rule has always been that way. The IOC and many sports organizations have allowed the inclusion of trans people for decades.
I'm not saying they didn't. What I'm saying is the rule in the United States based on Title IX was always segregation, until Biden tried to change it, and he was struck down by a liberal court, matter of fact, based on that issue.
Nobody here defends liberals. Whenever people bring
I'm just saying, but I just disagree with that. And
even the restating of your points ignored like 9 other things that was said earlier. Right. This is like a parallel thing, but it's not the thing, because again, any of these things that went into place in the past were on the basis of with a total ignorance of trans people, of transitioning and the like. And so the burden will always be on who should have the burden, the segregationists. And Nate, I hope you'll at least stand by, and I hope that I see you at some point publicly on your own platforms address that while you would support the ban while we figure it out, that you would be opposed to a Trump ban because the funding to figure those things out have been removed, and there wouldn't be an intention to actually answer those questions. It would just be ban it, get it out of there, get that small portion of this group completely banned from it, and the larger portion of that group completely banned. Fuck those people, that you'll oppose that at the very least, and you'll do so publicly on your own platforms too.
Well, my position, as it's been publicly, is I fundamentally support the ban until there's evidence to show the opposite. And when there is,
so it doesn't change to you that the person putting in the ban will make sure evidence of the opposite will not come to light, right? That doesn't bug you at all. You'll take the ban even if.
No, it does.
Okay, right now that's what Trump is doing. Trump is not only, and they're pursuing worse. They are pursuing, read Project 2025, they are pursuing making illegal studying these things. So how can you say you support any ban while Trump is president?
Well, in other words, what I'm saying is I support the way the law is now, which has nothing to do with Trump. It has to do with the courts. I support the ban as it is now until there's evidence to change.
The ban does,
so whatever Trump
all
is
the
doing,
bans have to do with Trump.
Whatever Trump is doing now, that's ridiculous. But I'm saying until you can provide me some evidence to change my mind, and I think that's what most people ask me. Hey, I'm available, that my position can change. That's why I'm here.
Multiple changes and bans can be tracked back to Trump, just like Arden was saying. The Olympics ban is clearly a pressure from Trump change, right? So
yeah,
when you're saying
nothing
it's
to do
not,
with
he's not
facts
the
or
one putting in the
evidence.
law. Obviously, across the board, there would be things Trump is doing that aren't directly him doing it that you, I assume, would disagree with, and that's a wild. I don't know. I don't know how you'd.
I'm agreeing with you. I agree. And just to be clear, I don't like Trump. I agree with 1,000% of the things that you're saying. Yes, they should, and they should do the studies. Yes, but I don't think that's a bar from keeping the law as it is until we figure out what's going on.
So if I watch all of your stuff, Nate, how much stuff will I watch that is no trans people in sports compared to we need to massively fund and try to restore the people into sports that we do prove don't have an advantage? What is the proportions going to be? Because I think this is where it's going to get into whether I think that you're authentic.
The proportions of whether we should. Well, I didn't know this funding issue is just something new. Trump has just been in for a year. So most of my issues, the things that I've done on trans people were before even Trump got in office. So yeah, I would say now that that's something that's the case, I would say, yeah, I would support funding. But no, I just want to be very clear. I don't support the integration because based on sex without the data to show that it's something that should be done. And again, you guys agree that there is no data, there's no credible data. So
last thought I want to give you here, because I've seen your videos pop up. You don't know me, but I've been in this circle for a long time. Your most recent video on trans people was from a month ago. Trans swimmer Leah Thomas stripped of titles for being a man in women's sports. I don't believe that you're a real ally or that you actually value trans people at all if you're going to title something like that. Even if your position is what it is and it's as nuanced as it is, that is just gross. And I really hope you consider stopping. It's really gross and dehumanizing and shitty to trans people. I think you can make your point without doing that. So I hope you'd reflect on that and maybe feel a little bit bad about it.
Oh, okay. That's reasonable, because what I usually do is take like news article titles and just put them in the title set, and that's what generates it. So it's to get the most clicks on a video. But you know what? If that is something that I could improve on,
fomenting hatred against trans people to get clicks is gross. And that's what that does functionally.
I think it's essentially again, my position is what my position is, and I came and to explain my position.
And you can communicate that without calling trans women men.
To communicate that, I'm sorry, I didn't. My mic cut out real quick.
I said you can communicate that without calling trans women men.
That's possible. It's possible I can do that. But again, I might title my videos the way I do because I want to get the most action. But
you said you reference an article. Do you make it clear? Do you make it clear in the title? Because I've put in salacious things in the article that's quoting an article.
No, not at all.
Well, then do that. If you feel like you just must do it, and if you're going to do it, that video needs to include your disclosure that you accept trans women are women, unless you don't.
I also just I do what I do because it gets clicks. Like, listen, we're in the YouTube game, right? I understand the algorithm game. I understand getting your bag, but also, what's the point if you are selling out your values? Like, do you actually care about human lives? Because that's just gross. I do it to get clicks is really gross. It makes you seem like a inhuman person.
Well, I just want to make it very clear. My position's always been the same. If there's a trans woman out there who, matter of fact, I know, what am I talking about? I know so many trans women, and I don't agree with this. You don't call them mess and all this other crap that they say, and don't be civil. I think all that's crap. But if you're asking me biologically, yes, I believe trans women are biological men, but I also believe
that's not a category. There's no such thing as a biological man. If you want to say you believe they're male,
are completely ascientific.
Right. That's a made-up phrase.
I believe they're. No, I don't think it's a made-up phrase. I think there's a difference between what you identify as and what you actually are.
Biological male is the term you might have been looking for.
But I don't.
Biological men and women are social categories. They have nothing to do with male or female.
Okay, let's refine the language. Biological male. Right. I believe that I believe that yes, trans women are biological men, but I also believe
you just said men
they
again.
Should be treated socially as women.
You just
biological
said
male.
men again.
Yeah. My language.
Male.
Okay, my language is
Male,
my
female.
my
That's
language,
sex.
sorry. Male.
Male, female is
Biological
You can be
sex.
frank.
Men
Biological
and
male,
women
because
are
Nate-
gender.
biological male. You're right. I apologize.
If I can be
Biological
frank,
male.
I think I
So,
knew.
yes, I
I
do
think you know
agree.
exactly what you're doing, and I think you're framing it that way because it gets you views, and that's just gross. Like you're a smart guy, you're a lawyer. You're a smart guy. You know exactly what you're doing.
But hold on, it gets me views.
Do you
I
sleep at
believe
night over
in
it?
everything I put out there. I believe everything I put out. I do agree with it, and I say what I say, and then it just is what it is. I'll take.
Sure, and so does Nick
saying what I say,
Fuentes.
but I
Do
stand
you
behind all my
sleep over
content.
it?
Yeah.
Sure, and Nick Fuentes believes what he believes. Do you sleep over being willing to do that to people for views? I'm just curious.
To do what to people? To what? To say what it is? I don't
Frame them in ways that are
understand.
obviously inflammatory that you know are going to get you clicks because they they ignite the rage bait algorithm of hatred towards minority people like trans people.
Yeah, that's everything. I do it for the hillbillies. When you look at my channel,
okay, Nate, let me try a parallel.
Say
Nate.
it's all black, it's all hillbillies,
Nate.
it's all this. So I do it for everybody. I call
Nate,
Trump
let's say there was a court
guy. I do it for everybody. So.
Let's say
That's
a
not
court
the
case
defense
down
you
in
think it is?
Mississippi. Let's say a court case down in Mississippi. A judge declares that gay marriage is wrong, and it's all a bunch of like horrible homophobic stuff. Would you make the title "Judge declares gay people are wrong because gay marriage is wrong because gay people are animals," and you wouldn't put it in quotes? You would make it your own words. Would you or would you not put that title up?
If I'm quoting the judge, I would. If you
quoted the judge, you would put it in quotes, right? Or would you actually just make the title "Judge says that"? Because, in other words, to a person who's never seen you before, they don't know whether or not you're a freaking member of the Klan or I guess Westboro Baptist Church. Would you put it in quotes or not?
Well, all right. So just so we're clear, it's a possibility. I couldn't possibility I would not, because generally I try to keep all my titles under 70 characters. So sometimes quotes made, but then usually in there, what I always do is I always put like the article or whatever I'm citing in the thing so you can see exactly.
All right. Well, so Nate, I good. I'm going to be able to fix this problem for you. The 70 character advice that is given to you by vidIQ and MCNs and all the people who are helping you with SEO doesn't actually have to do with whether or not it's going to hurt you. It's that the first 70 characters are the characters most likely to be seen. And so you can go longer and it's not going to hurt you. All of our titles end with like the name of the thing and everything. So adding the quotation marks, if it's a quote, instead of it looking like you're agreeing that gay people are animals or that trans women are men, is not going to hurt you.
I only bring this up, Nate, because you started this call saying you support trans people. You just have this one little issue. And I'm scrolling through your thing and I'm seeing it's not just this issue. So I just reject the notion that you support trans people entirely.
What are the issues do I have? It's all
trans people self-IDing into male prisons. Make it sound like violent rapists are going to, like, the framing of that is intended to evoke the image that a violent rapist is going to go into a prison and rape women. When obviously what we're talking about is the fact that trans women are far more likely to be raped in prison. And so having them in women's prisons is vastly safer for everyone involved.
But that's exactly.
I'm not saying that's your position. I'm saying that's the implications of titles like that.
Nate, you just didn't listen to anything she said in response to why it was wrong. You're saying that's what happened, but
I'm saying that's what happened. Yeah, that's how people know the story. This is what happened in the story, and then you go watch.
And are you or are you not?
What that title does is my objection to you. You're a smart enough guy. You're a lawyer. You went through law school. I don't think you're ignorant to what a title like that does and why that's clickable.
Let me ask you this, Nate, if somebody scrolled your thing, do you think that if they're a trans person and all they saw were your titles and thumbnails, that they would agree that you're probably a trans ally? Or do you think that they would probably agree because of what it looks like, what kind of channel it looks like? Oh crap, I got a transphobe here.
I don't think they would believe it. It's funny because I do have one video where I had a huge amount of about 10 trans people comment about how it was such a great video because it was speaking about the
but I
don't know.
As an ally who's got a good sense of it,
it's not an ally.
I'll tell you this.
It wouldn't be. I don't think you would say it's an ally. No, I would say definitely not.
Right. You're going to see in here transgender women, the thumbnail, transgender women gets 2 women pregnant in jail. Again, with the alarmism that you are aware going on, painting this picture that this is the danger when the danger is far more the actual, the violence trans women are going through. If you're putting up pictures of a person even if those photos exist publicly, like going out of your way to put pictures of a person prior to transition as part of the thumbnail and after, like you did with Leah Thomas, that's generally going to be, this is a guy who does not care how this affects the people who are, it's kind of like, it just looks like you want to make sure trans people never forget they're trans. And I have a feeling that even the question I asked earlier about trans women are women, I wonder if you've ever agreed with that statement without going, but I will say on top of that I do believe they're biological men. If you can just let in isolation exist the phrase trans women are women, because there's nothing controversial about it.
No. I will say, if someone says trans women are women, I'm not going to sit there and argue with them at a dinner party or something. But
you realize you're doing it right now. You didn't just take it on. You just said somebody else says it. I asked. Iconic. I said I suspect you as a supposed trans ally can't let the phrase exist in isolation out of your own mouth.
So would I say trans women are women? Yes, I would say that. I've said that before. Yes,
you can just let it go and let it float in isolation. When you say you've said it before, you didn't then go into but let me just say after trans women are women.
No, I've said that before. I've said trans women are women. But then if someone asks me, well, do you really believe that, or what's your position? Then I'll elaborate. But my position, if a trans woman comes to me and says, I'm a woman, I'm going to treat her like a woman and do everything that's possible. I take a lot of flack for that. Even when I, for instance, like there was a video I did where I called the trans person, I always call the trans person by what they identify it. And I always get the slack. Oh my God, to me, the social piece of it doesn't matter. It's the biological piece of it that matters. The social piece.
I'm sure you get flack because you're very clearly cultivating a far right anti-trans audience with the thumbnails.
Right, you're not going far enough. It's like that's not that impressive of a point. There are also Proud Boys who don't think that Trump is anti-Jewish enough. You know, like just having the extremists be mad at you is not that helpful.
Yeah, but you can say that about, like, I have something about, I think I had one about Trump that everybody thought, oh my God, but it's all my videos are like that. But again, if you guys take issue with it, I definitely understand. I get heat from the Trumpies when I do it to them, and I get tips. So I just do it to everybody. And
I'll put it very blatantly to the point that I'll make some people mad because they're going to say invoking this maybe makes me a little racist. I think if I was making race realism or just videos about race realism, which I generally disagree with, but I sought specifically to seek out images of black men or black women in poses that make them look a little bit more like a gorilla than a person, like they're posed in a way that I associate with more like Animal Planet iconography, and you saw those thumbnails, you'd go, what you're doing, the line you are crossing to get these clicks is on the side of bigotry, not on the side of allyship. And that's what I would compare it to, that your thumbnails are at the cost of the humanity of the people that you're saying you ally with.
Well, two things. Number one, but you know what? I'm looking at them now. I think you could make that argument. Yeah, I think you can make that argument. I think you can make that argument because they're viral, they're that type of thing. But will I change? What am I thinking about this? I don't know. I'm looking at them now, and I'm thinking you have to give me something to think about because I'm just looking. I've pulled them all. I've pulled up a lot of them, and I'm looking at them. I'm like, yeah, I can see where you get that from.
Sure.
And I'm looking at the other ones too. All right. Yeah, you know what you guys have made me think about something, maybe toning it down a little bit, because a lot like the story about the ones in prison, those were just like straight headlines. Like
what was necessary about dead naming and showing the photo of Leah Thomas pre-transition? Why was that important to the thumbnail?
Well, I don't do my thumbnails. So I have my team.
All right. So in the future, when you do that, you now know that that's kind of a shitty thing to do.
Me.
Thanks.
Yeah,
Good.
I'll be more sensitive to that if that matters. Well, it does matter. It matters to me because I'm looking at them now and I can definitely do. But yeah, because a lot of times my team does the thumbnails. So you know what? I will concede that. Maybe I will. No, you know what? Forget the maybe. I will be better and I will be less maybe crazy when it comes to the thumbnail and titles, because to be honest with you, I actually don't do titles and thumbnails, and my team does it, but I do like watch the videos and see
and you can give them the direction.
So I take full responsibility.
I got a team of now like 25 of us. If one of them does something like that, you know, it wouldn't be a quiet conversation.
Well, I do most of the thumbnails for the line, Nate. Trust me, I get it. You got to lean into inflammatory language and rage bait to a certain extent to even get any traction in the algorithm nowadays. And I don't blame any individual for that. That's the algorithm's problem that they should change. However, I think there's a way to do it that doesn't involve like dehumanizing entire groups of people, right? Like, I think if you want to call an individual stupid or an individual problematic in some kind of way, I think you can make the case for that. But yeah, that shit is... I'll
give you one other just because you are taking it. So this isn't.
Hold on, let me.
Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I do want to say because I'm looking at them. I do see what you guys, because again, like I said, it's a process. But looking at them, I do see where your guys' concerns are. So I will be better. I will be better.
So I just want to add one more note to that, not as another attack, but as here's another guideline to change. Don't specifically use pictures of trans women that seem to try to maintain as much of their masculinity as you can. That's also like a clear transphobe coded thing. So going with the picture of the mayor where you can see her chest hair, or even the pictures of Leah Thomas, like go with a photo that you would want of you to be up if it was you, as opposed to like, that's a very common thing of I'm going to put a trans person in my thing, in my thumbnail, and I'm going to make sure if they're a woman, it's as masculine a photo of them as I can find. So that'd be another way, if you want to actually prove you're an ally to trans people, that you could give better direction on that.
We've done that though, because I've made sure that's one thing that we did talk about, like having we have talked about that piece of it. So I think most of my thumbnails, when it does talk about trans, we don't show like except for the one Leah Thomas picture.
No, the one that I saw was the trans mayor. The trans mayor one is the one where it's like obviously the case. I don't even know the story, but I know I've seen the same picture, and that people love that one because her chest hair is showing.
Oh, the trans mayor one? That was the one that person. So that was the article. All those pictures were from the article, because that's a mayor from some.
And they probably were doing the same thing. They were probably doing the same thing.
Yeah, why is that the defense, though, Nate? That's the problem. Like, if you're actually an ally and care about trans people, you should like think these things through.
No, I'm not. Well, I'm saying both those pictures were like, one is the person like at city council, like their mayoral picture, and the other one is the picture
professional.
So they're gonna get that. That's what both are.
And the trans one is very unflattering, unprofessional. But if it's the only other one, could you explain to me the Dylan Mulvaney, where the person who is saying Dylan Mulvaney is a he, his picture is very well kept. He looks very handsome. He's saying the word he, and about the craziest photo you could have of Dylan is saying she back, implying by the thumbnail that you're going to defend that Dylan's a he and that she's going to be projected as crazy.
Although, but that picture is Dylan Mulvaney's campaign picture from the Bud Light commercial. So
the one with the one, I have no doubt that it is amongst a video she did, but it is clearly a still that is unflattering. And again, where the guy on the left is in, Nate, I know you are capable of being more honest than this. Look at that thumbnail and tell me you think. Tell me, great. Tell me if you were looking at that, you would go in expecting a balanced on both. Let's hear out this side and this side, and that it doesn't look from the thumbnail that he's going to be presented as reasonable and she's going to be presented as a crazy piece of shit.
I don't know about all that. I think you're just being too sensitive with that.
I don't believe you.
I
We
think
really
you
need to
know.
move on. We've been on this call for a long time, but I just don't believe you, Nate. You're a lawyer. You're smarter than that. You've been in these circles for a long time. I think you're being dishonest in that framing. So you have fun with that.
That's her Bud Light commercial.
Nate, nobody's arguing that it's not from something.
Bud Light massive.
Nobody's. You had a choice. Your
that's Dylan Mulvaney looking great. I don't know.
Your thumbnail person had a choice of how to represent Dylan. So just saying because this still is from a video, which we can find unflattering photos and videos.
That is a still.
It wouldn't matter. You have a contrast.
You are missing the point, dude.
Oh my God. You guys. No, I'm not missing the point. I think you guys are just.
Why did you pick a dignified still?
Her campaign and put it there.
Why did you pick a dignified still from him instead of a different still? Well, I'm sure you can go find an undignified that he signed off on. He has a dignified still. She has. The contrast is what is obvious. If you want to find him making an equally silly face, sure, but you make her side a joke and his side dignified.
I think you're reading into that, but it's hey, it's everybody sees whatever. It's the ink blot. Everybody sees whatever it is.
Okay, if I show it to the audience, would you agree that the trans audience here, we have a heavily trans audience, if they mostly tell you that this is clearly, would that change your mind at all? If I show it to them and we poll them and they say that it is largely an offensive, clearly meant to make the trans person look crazy, would it affect you at all, or wouldn't change your position at all?
You know what? I wouldn't mind the poll because I would like to see what, if you have a large trans audience, I would like to see what they think about that thumbnail.
I'll go ahead
but I want to make it very clear.
I'll preface this by
on his side is that is a still from the interview. The second part is the Bud Light campaign. It's a picture with her holding the Bud Light can up.
Nobody's arguing that it isn't an actual photo. It's when you are presenting the verses. When you are presenting him versus her, why would that be the image you choose for her? No one's arguing that isn't an image of her and from a campaign or whatever else. I still think it looks more like it's a still from a video, but whatever. Why does he get such a dignified photo next to her with such a not dignified photo is my position, is the question I'm asking. And I think know that you're being pedantic right now. What I'm
saying is No, I'm not. I believe that photo of her with the campaign, which was hot at that time, is the photo we used. And I don't think it's a bad. If you think it's a bad,
we're not disagreeing that was the video. That was the campaign. You're dodging, and I genuinely
that video. I'm not dodging. I'm saying I'm standing by that.
No, you are. We're specifically asking. No, stop. We're specifically saying we agree. That shot is from the Bud Light campaign. You could have taken, 24 frames per second, however long that video was, a minute long, means you had like 2,000 frames you could have picked, and you picked that one as opposed to any of the other 2,000 in that minute long video. That is the critique. We don't disagree where it's from. We're saying, why did you specifically pick that one as opposed to one where they both looked dignified?
So before I'm getting the image real quick.
About being dignified or anything. I just took the image, a shot of him. That is a screenshot of him in the thing, and there was a shot of her with the campaign for Bud Light.
Is it weighted? Is it weighted in one person's favor? Yes or no? Is it weighted in one person's favor? That thumbnail.
Do I think that thumbnails? I don't think so.
If you had the two of them here, do you believe that they would both feel that they were treated equally in presentation?
I don't know. I don't know. I'm just being honest. I don't know.
That's so dishonest. You don't think that Dylan Mulvaney, if she saw that, would no, I'm obviously being misrepresented?
How can she be misrepresented? She's holding up the Bud Light can in a picture, smiling. For Bud Light.
Okay, I'm done. I'm done.
He's embarrassing to her.
There's no way you're that. There's no way you're not getting what we're asking. So I'm done with.
No, I'm not getting what you're asking.
I'm very disappointed.
I think you guys are
no, I don't believe you.
Micromanage this and say. This looks bad because she doesn't look as flattering as I would like her to look.
No,
then
Nate, you are
It's not about how flattering we want her to look, and you know it, and that's why this is dishonest and why you're full of shit.
But look, if you look down, there's another thumbnail with Dylan Mulvaney in it, and she looks great. It has nothing. It doesn't have anybody else in it. It's her looking.
Cool, good job.
But you're not looking at that. But you know what? I think you're looking at this one picture saying, well, we don't like the way she looks in this. No,
the first 3 videos I brought up were the 3 most recent videos on trans people on your channel. So stop fucking lying.
Yeah,
I'm done. I'm done. We can drop Nate. I don't care what he sees the results.
You're talking about lying.
It's just so dishonest.
Nate, we're just we're not going to agree on this, Nate. Look, hang on, Nate, just chill. We're not going to agree on. I also think that I think you know that I was giving you good faith, like, hey, if you want trans people to actually believe you're an ally, doing this with images, doing the before and after, dead naming, showing the old photos, using this kind of language, and then adding, when you have a versus where you have 2 people, I've done it on purpose myself. Whenever I was doing like classically Abby or girl defined stills, I went and made them look purposefully stupid and unflattering in the thumbnail, knowing that my audience already thinks that they are stupid and wants to come for the roast of their stupidity, right? That is the thumbnail game. And I don't believe for a second that you don't think that is what happened with that. But at the end of the day, you know, it's us keep saying, I don't believe you don't know that. And I don't know why I can't find this still I just took. Is it this? No, that's from OneDrive.
Well, no, because just to be clear, that one I disagree. But I do agree that there are others that, yes, I did that purposefully because I do, when I do the thumbnails, but most of the thumbnails, I have instructed my guys to look for the most craziest, look for something that describes the scene. So that's true. That's true. And that may even be one of the most recent ones. So that is true.
I instructed the guy.
That's not what happened there.
I'm ready to get a study going where like you and I put $1,000 on and we go find like a place, like a public place where we just show people 2 thumbnails, the one you made, and then I make an alternative one where she just sort of looks similarly, and ask them to look which one looks like they treated both more fairly and on equal grounds. And I'd bet $1,000 that even amongst bigots, I can still get above 80%. Like that's the level to which I think you're being dishonest here, that it's that obvious. Where do screenshots go in a fucking? How can I not find this? Sorry, I'm trying to do 2 things at once. Go ahead.
Are you on a Mac? If you're
I'm
on
a PC.
It could be the capture button.
Okay, I think I found it.
Well, again, I think it's preference, and I don't think that for that thumbnail particularly, that's not what happened. For other ones, yes, you could make that argument. For that one, no, I did. That one was not. That didn't go into that formulation.
Do we still need to do the poll? Do we care? I'm pulling up Photoshop. I'm going to paste it into that, and I'm going to do a still. But I'm assuming everybody would agree. So I'm not. Well, 20% of people in our last poll said that they don't support trans rights. So you get at least 20% of people on your side, like at least, because they're not going to agree with anything we're going to say. That's not even necessarily saying that you're transphobic, but the transphobic people are definitely going to side with you, no matter either way.
Oh yeah, especially on this issue. But listen.
Hey, that's an interesting acknowledgement. All right, it's just
I am looking. I am looking at something. They are not flattering. I am looking at a couple of these things. Yeah.
All right, this thing's being too annoying, so I'm not going to bother with it. But I think we've made our point. If you ever want to do the $1,000 bet, we can pull that. We'll do that one. All right.
Well, listen. Thank you guys. Thank you guys for your time. Good luck with the show, and I will speak to you guys later.
All right. Bye, Nate.
Not to me, you won't.
Told you not to break my heart. Never break my heart. What's the line from is it Godfather? Told you never.
Honestly, I've been watching that down spiral from Nate on his channel and his content. I never watched his content, but it gets recommended because atheist stuff. And I've seen the trans stuff pop up for last couple years or so. I
was hopeful. Nate gave, I think, $100 super chat to a show with Luxander and I fighting like trans people. And so I was like, I know I'd seen some stuff that made me worry, but it looks like, I mean, if you like Luxander at a certain point, how more radically trans can you get?
Yeah.
Than
And to be
Lux?
fair, like we gave him the first like 30 minutes of that conversation, I think was really fair and good faith and even time. And we were giving each other space to flesh out your concepts and all of that stuff. I only switched gears because it seemed like the main part of the conversation was winding down. And I was like, I can't really pass up an opportunity while he's here to bring up this problem of how he's representing trans people. And by the way, to anyone who gives any sort of criticism along the lines of like, we're not asking for trans people to be represented in a flattering way if they're doing unflattering things. What we're saying is if a trans person is doing a normal thing, like an ad campaign for a beer, and you specifically highlight an unflattering thing to contrast her with someone else who looks flattering, that is dishonest and frames trans people in a way that is dehumanizing. Like, oh, we're all these like ugly creatures who are just like, an affront to common sense and decency.
Well, it's like I said, I've used that tactic, but it was to identify I am hostile to girl defined, so I had thumbnails that were hostile to their side. Like obviously we're not saying it's universally a wrong thing. It's that you know what you're doing when you're doing this. But anyway, he's not on the phone, so continuing the argument isn't fully fair. We're probably going to be on for a little while longer. If you want to call in, especially if you are MAGA, that number's up there, 336-543-2101. Go ahead.
I had asked Luthien if the next caller could be the last.
Oh, word. All right.
That's streaming for a while today.
Never mind. Don't do that, people. But we will talk to now Trey in Nevada. Trey in Nevada, you are on the line with Jimmy and Arden. And it says you want to talk about the state of the Democratic Party and what he disagrees with. I'd like to first know which side you are coming from this on, if you are MAGA, because I'm a socialist. I don't like the Democratic Party one bit. So we can already both say fuck the Democrats, but Trey, what side are you coming from this on?
Well, I'm unaffiliated, but I don't in any way, shape, or form endorse socialism.
Sure.
So
did you vote for who'd you vote for in the last election?
Oh, well, that's irrelevant to the political affiliation.
Sure, but it'll tell me where you are and which, like I'll tell you I'm a socialist who hates the Democrats. I voted for Kamala Harris.
As you stated prior, as being the lesser of two evils. And
sure, who did you believe was the lesser of two evils in that election?
Well, I didn't vote in the last election, but I would have leaned far more towards Trump, given Kamala's horrendous track record as a politician, as a person.
Kamala, but so what about 2016, 2020? Did you ever cast a vote for Trump?
That's crazy.
Have you ever cast a vote for Trump?
No, I've never voted for Trump.
Have you ever voted?
No, I've actually never voted.
How old are you?
Almost 35 in a few months.
So describe to me, Trey, a candidate who would get your vote. What would be their number one issue?
Well, Trump is relatively close, although the America First policies don't ultimately represent America First. And I think Israel is a big example of that. The constant funding, especially given the current situation with the Palestinian issue.
Okay.
I would support someone who isn't willing to bow down to that funding and ultimate, it's not, I'm not anti.
No, I agree. I think it's disgusting that we're supporting Israel.
Or Jew,
Oh, yeah, I'm anti-Zionist.
There's a certain line that needs to be balanced.
So you are Zionist, but you believe that they should be figuring it out themselves? Is that what you're saying? I'm asking. That's not so you are Zionist.
No, I appreciate that. No, I'm not. I don't want to be interfering in world issues, whether it's
isolationist.
To some degree. I think we have drug addiction problems. We have financial issues.
Mm-hmm.
I have 4 nephews that just graduated college that are in a state of disarray of trying to understand what they do next.
What should the minimum wage be?
Finding a job. Probably 0. I don't believe in the minimum wage.
Okay. Could you give me the best argument for why a minimum wage is good as you understand it?
why a minimum wage is good?
Yeah, so you're against it. And so like if you were to come at me with any of these issues, I could defend any of them, and except for that you've now met me. If you hadn't, you wouldn't know I wasn't on your side. I'm wondering if you could do the same thing for a minimum wage. Just very briefly, what's the best argument or the strongest argument for why we should have a minimum wage?
That's a complex issue.
I could do it in one sentence.
I'm now taking the opposite position that I believe, but ultimately I think
it's the thing you should do.
The argument on the other side would be is it's constantly increased, and in some states now eclipsed $15 or $20 an hour.
No, sorry, Trey, you're misunderstanding the question. I'm not asking what the minimum wage should be. What's the best argument that there should? You said you don't believe in a minimum wage, and I'm curious if you know why what my best argument would be for why I do believe there should be a minimum wage.
Well, diminishing poverty ultimately.
That's pretty good. Yeah. I would also go with, actually, if you look historically, a below minimum wage, the difference between companies exploiting, for example, high-end unemployment areas, therefore giving low minimum wage, and not profit sharing when they're doing excellent, actually has very little distinction from slavery. That actually, at a certain point, if you allow a minimum wage to be below a livable wage, we basically become slaves of a different type. We call it like wage slavery. And so that would be the extended version of it. And that's why because we have such a history of financial exploitation by rich people, oligarchs and the like, that's why I would. But I'm curious to keep finding out other things we might agree or disagree on. Do you believe that a person should be allowed to hoard security and resources? Like if you're capable of buying all of the food, even at the cost of other people's food, should the government come and force you to give food back?
Well, given our current state in living in the society that we live in a capitalistic society, that's kind of the... Yeah,
don't worry about that. Worry about what you believe
compromise.
In. What do you believe in? Do you believe that hoarding resources should be allowed by the government?
I'd like to address your previous statement before we leap into anything else. And I think...
Go ahead.
So therefore, the slave state and the working class, in some respect, I think I agree with that. And therefore I would, given my present position, I'm very anti-illegal immigration and reforming the current immigration state of the way America's lived since, the 60s. So
I agree, but I have a feeling that it's to different ends. I would make it, if you're going to be here illegally, I would make the punishments much more severe after making it way easier to become a citizen. In other words, I would make it so easy to work in this country and be here legally if you are a good person, if you are not a murderer, a rapist, you don't have a rap sheet, that then anybody who was still coming illegally, you could pretty confidently say the only reason left is that this is a horrible person. So in a way, I agree with some of your headlines, but I have a feeling you're not for open borders like I am.
Well, so what is the number?
What's the number of what?
We're currently taking in over 1 million legal immigrants every year. Is that the number? Should it be increased? Should it be decreased?
Of how many legal immigrants we could get, whatever the demand is. We've got plenty of space, room, and resources. The only reason it seems like we don't is because those aforementioned hoarders are hoarding the resources. And right now we know that immigrants increase our economy, increase our benefit. Right now we've not hit any wall where we have to go, hey, shit, if we actually let them in, we're not going to be able to feed our own people. So we are far from needing any kind of restriction.
Well, we have hundreds of thousands of homeless people. We're currently in that state.
Yeah, we should definitely stop fucking those people over, and basically we should go and either imprison billionaires who won't give the money back or just force them to give the money back. We don't need a single homeless person in this country, not a veteran, not an illegal immigrant, nobody. No one needs to be homeless. Absolutely everybody could be housed. We have the resources to feed them, house them, everybody. And the nice thing is that ends up paying back. Every dollar you put into giving homeless people a place to live, ends up returning money because they're more likely to recover from addiction. And in general, if you meet a person's base needs, the whole idea that like just meeting their base needs means that they don't want to work and stuff turns out to be a myth. I, for example, have medical issues. I would more than qualify for enough disability and Social Security right now if I wanted to not work at all, to at least live, but bare minimum living sucks. So I don't do that because I have the means to work. And so it turns out all that shit's a myth, and actually putting money in and taking care of people pays us back. The thing that we're hitting right now isn't a wall of the money the immigrants are stealing. Trey, whoever you're working for, presuming you're not self-employed, is stealing your money.
Well, I am self-employed, and
well, I hope you're not stealing other people's money.
No, I employ several people, and ultimately, I think as far as the homeless issue goes, the drug addiction, the mental health issues, first of all, have to be separated and observed in certain sense. But there's many people that don't want to engage in the current economic system, or don't want to. Have a certain requirement of, like you stated, you choose not to do that because you have opportunities, and there's many people that choose the opposite.
And it's fine, Trey. And Trey, it's actually fine, because if we created that system, so many people, the majority of people won't do that. That's the myth, that everybody, if they don't have to work, won't. The majority of people don't do that because people do have a drive to make their lives better. And so actually, even if we had an explosion of the number of people who do that, the number of people who will benefit and now return value to the society they're in will far outweigh that. They've done experiments with things like universal basic income, public housing, and the like. And it's why not only in other countries do people feel more stable, have less mental illness, have less physical illness, but is also why their happiness indexes are higher than ours.
Well, I would question those studies, given that at the rate of welfare recipients over the last 50 years, it's done nothing but increase. And
yes, because we don't have, because welfare right now does not actually meet your basic needs, Trey.
Well, given the inflation that the Democrats have created over the last 5 or 10 years, more specifically.
Sure, and the Democrats and the Republicans. Forgive me, Trey. If I'm fine with blaming the Trey for it, but Trey, right now the inflation of the last 6 years has been a combination of COVID and the Trump's tax cuts, because he exploded our deficit, which leads to explosive growth in inflation. So you are describing a thing that has been them together sucking, but luckily Biden was the president for the 4 years after him and was able to at least lower our rate of inflation compared to the rest of the developed world. No, that is true. America had less inflation. It still had inflation, but less inflation than the rest of the developed world.
The Inflation Reduction Act actually increased inflation because it was embedded with many components of the Green New Deal and
so Trey, you're repeating Fox News points.
Funding.
I've given you direct facts and stats along the way. What you just described. Oh, I don't know.
You're doing the same thing.
Trey, it doesn't matter if you listen to Fox News. You're still regurgitating their points. By the way, Trey, hang on, Trey. I will agree with you that the inflection.
You've cut me off several times, so I feel more inclined to cut you off.
I definitely do cut people off when they are blatantly lying and they are incorrect. Because we only have so much time to hear right-wing propaganda. Trey, so what I will tell you, we agree with.
Biden has reduced inflation.
No, I didn't say he reduced inflation. I said that the inflation that happened in America was less than the rest of the developed world because of Biden-level administration things that happened. However, where we could have agreed is that the Inflation Reduction Act, while not bad, I'm not going to say it was bad. It basically was an infrastructure bill that Trump promised to do and then never did. While not bad, it wasn't actually focused on inflation and wasn't the main reason why we mitigated inflation risk. There were other policies at hand, but it was deceptive for them to call it the Inflation Reduction Act because it wasn't its primary purpose. However, as a jobs act and as an infrastructure act, looks like it's been very effective, and that's why Donald Trump has made no attempt to repeal it.
Well, they also constantly reduced and redacted basically the jobs report that they had over the entire Biden administration as well. You're
mistaking that for the Trump administration. He just fired his numbers guy because the numbers came out and he didn't even have 1/10 of the numbers he was
you're
claiming.
Distorting. There were several months across the entire Biden administration that they were reducing retroactively, 2 or 3 months retroactively, the actual reports that they came out previously.
So they said that
And
the unemployment rate was higher, because you're saying they reduced the job numbers. That would be against their favor.
They said X amount of jobs had come out, and then a few months later, it was reduced from the actual number of jobs that were created.
And what happened? And then what happened under Trump?
And over the entire
Trey,
here, let me finish my point.
Trey, and then what happened under Trump?
You already jumped in.
I know what I've done.
Over the entire Biden administration, the majority of those jobs were going to non-citizen, non-American-born people.
Okay, so
the majority of those jobs.
Trey, let's go ahead and fact check some things. I've already pulled up the numbers. The 2024, they overstated by 818,000 jobs. But guess what a percentage difference that was? That was a mere difference of 0.5% of the overall job numbers for the prior year, as opposed to Donald Trump, again, who is actually president. And of course, you can't make your case without trying to complain about Biden, a president who I think sucked. So you're doing it for weird reasons anyway. But Donald Trump in July of 2025 claimed that they were up by 258,000 jobs in May and June, except for that then they published their numbers and the numbers were a mere 19,000 and 14,000, meaning a reduction of, again, over 90% per month. So I don't know why you're sitting here.
Of Biden.
Who cares? Biden sucked.
Can I here? I'll let you. I'm willing to listen to you.
Uh-huh.
No,
okay,
I'm
but
not,
don't. Okay, so make your case for Trump without mentioning Biden.
I'm not endorsing Trump.
Okay, make your argument for your positions without endorsing Biden. I don't know why we're talking about Biden. We may as well talk about Al Gore. I don't care for him either.
Because the statement of my current concern was of the state of the Democrat policy.
And they suck. The Democrats suck. They don't have good articulated policies. They need to be working on Medicare for all. Everybody should have health care as an absolute right. We should get rid of for-profit health care, because that means it's a system which they will make more money if you are sicker and paying them to treat more often than if you are healthy. So the Democrats aren't doing that, and that's a huge betrayal. And frankly, while the only reason why I wish they had won the last election is because the alternative is worse. Other than that, they don't deserve to govern this country, because they are so neglectful of their actual citizens, and they, like the Republicans and like Trump, are doing the bidding of billionaires and oligarchs. So where do we go from here, Trey? Just keep agreeing that the Democrats suck?
No, I maybe the previous caller made me more optimistic that you would be a little more inclined to listen and not.
Why would I need to listen to you complain about people I don't like?
Because every single time before I finished a sentence, you're already.
But I already agree that the Democrats suck. So why do I need to hear? Why are we doing why can't we talk about places we disagree instead of you want to keep talking about Biden sucks, okay? Biden is barely better than a fascist, if not a fascist. And he is a genocidal asshole who is very responsible for what happened in Gaza. He is a war criminal, and I would put him in prison. Donald Trump sucks. He is a war criminal. I would put him in prison. Obama sucks. He is a war criminal, and put him in prison. Clinton sucks. War criminal, prison. Bush sucks. War criminal, prison. Okay, so now we have no basis upon which we have to. Thank you.
Agree with you.
Now, where do we disagree?
There we go. Okay.
We were. Do you recognize this was a more effective conversation when we were doing my questions about the minimum wage? Next, I was going to ask you about the maximum wage. But do you want to go back to another politician I hate and talk about how much they suck?
No,
is that where we're at?
We're getting off the rails here. I think.
I agree.
You're not allotting me the proper space and time to really
What topic would you like that space and time on? Trey,
this is not an open mic thing where we hand you the thing and you come up on stage and you do your routine. This is a back and forth conversation, which means we're going to have to jump in. We want to get to the facts on what's true. So if you're saying things that aren't true, we're going to jump in.
What topic would you like to opine on, Trey? And I will tell you whether or not we want to listen to that because we agree or disagree.
Okay, I respect that. Trans women are men.
Great. Now, what is your factual basis for that?
So I listened to the entirety of the last conversation, and despite getting into the weeds and trying to quantify the reality that
so far
do
we're not
women
on your
have an
factual basis. Could you just introduce your factual basis instead of the preamble about the previous call?
Trans women have an advantage or don't have an advantage. Why are trans men aren't seizing the opportunities in the same way that trans women are? In the realm
they
of sports.
are participating in sports, but you know what doesn't happen, Trey? It doesn't get covered on the news because the media doesn't think it's sexy. The media thinks it's sexy when a trans woman wins a sport, because then they can go, man stole gold medal from poor, weak, frail little woman. Trans men are competing in sports. It's just not sensationalized. Okay. So you don't know about it.
Can you name a single one that's relevant and actually seizing the opportunity?
No, because I don't give a fuck about sports.
Exactly. Because it's all the disadvantage lies in that realm.
Trey,
the disadvantage lies in those realms.
Trey, can you name a single swimmer that isn't Leah Thomas or involved in the Leah Thomas story? Go ahead. Nope, don't Google. You got to spit it out. Trey's Googling. So you can't.
Shocker.
Trey, we know you're Googling. We know that that's what this pause is. Or if you just stop figuring out how to use your phone. Oh, you hung up because you tried to go the name one. You can't name a single cis.
I'm sorry.
swimmer.
Did I raise my voice at you? And did it scare you? When the big lady scares you when she raises her voice? Oh, you poor thing. You poor little baby. I hope your mommy kisses your forehead and tucks you in at night and doesn't tell you how fucking disappointed she is in you.
Trey's PP is very dry. Hey, Trey, so the thing is I asked you, what do you want to opine on? And you literally went to an identity-based wedge issue. So you're all into the identity politics shit. Because this is like, it isn't meaningful to you. It actually makes sense why it's meaningful to our side. I don't know if you've noticed, but the second in command at my company here is a trans woman. You probably didn't notice. And now that you found out, you're probably feeling very confused and angry at yourself for being like, damn, I know what's going on. Anyway, Trey, I asked you what you wanted to opine on, and you said trans women are men, which is already a ridiculous sentence. And I think maybe like the previous caller, you wanted to say trans women are male or trans women shouldn't be identified as, but it is funny because it's like you said, red-haired women are men. Okay, well, you called them women the first half of your sentence, but I think you're the confused one. But second of all, Trey, I then asked you what your factual basis is, and you went off about, well, in the first call and that, and you said, and why aren't trans men competing in sport, which they are, but are, arguably it is, since in male sports, the people at the professional level who get to compete at the highest level are people who are born with tremendous genetic advantages. If you are not born with a tremendous genetic advantage, like myself, maybe I have a shot at badminton because my arms are about 4 feet long. They drag along the ground when I walk casually. Okay. These are long noodle. I'm a wacky waving inflatable arm flailing tube man. You have to be, so as far as being a man goes and a trans man athlete, you would need to be born both. You would need to both probably start puberty, not ever start quote unquote the wrong puberty, and have been born with that tremendous genetic advantage when you start taking HRT. So as far as at the professional level, yes, you are going to be less likely to make it to the top of the professional level because mitigating the advantage as opposed to the disadvantages, which people are worrying about with trans women that being a woman has, mitigating the advantage that male professionals have because of genetics is harder to gain the same advantage as them than it is to mitigate and gain the same disadvantage that cis women would have. That is a harder bar to meet. It's really not that complicated why there's less trans men in sports at the professional level. Under that, there's no difference. Like trans men try to compete in college sports, trans men try to compete in high school sports. There is no difference. And they do quite well. They do fine.
I just think it's so pathetic and feckless that the second I raised my voice just a little bit, he hung up immediately. Yeah. What whiny ass baby snowflake bullshit. You guys talk all the time about how we're so sensitive, but the second I raise my voice or push you a little bit, you run away?
Yeah.
Fucking coward. Have some balls. Have some fucking principles and be willing to stand behind what you believe.
We had
Pathetic.
when we had Josie on the other day, somebody thought misgendering Josie was going to slow her down. Or when Lux was on the other day, the caller who melted down, was it Luthien? Was it Gregory that melted down and started screaming, "Who is this female?" Which just made Luthien like, it did, or just made Lux. It did put Lux off track because then they started like laughing so hard, but it wasn't what Gregory, I think it was expecting.
Lux was telling me that y'all also had some lady who was like, "You guys are so mean," and Lux was like, "You make it so easy."
Oh, you need to watch that clip. That clip is crazy. I just put it up. So if people want a good clip to watch after this on the channel, watch the one. It's titled something like "Caller Tries White." And people think I missed that. I wanted to say cries. Tries was what I intended, but cries would work for it. Anyway, it's called something like "Caller Tries White," parentheses, supremacist, girl tears, when confronted or something like that. And that call is fucking, it's so bad that there are literally people in the comments claiming that she was paid to be that awful. Somebody even claimed that apparently she called some other show and admitted she is paid. We don't need to pay anybody.
Okay.
And as anybody who works for me will tell you, I am not trying to give dollars out to anybody I don't have to give dollars out to, right? Like I am profit sharing, and then I'm like, everything I don't spend on upgrading y'all's kits, I get to keep, kind of. It's basically you save it until something bad happens. Like this week we have to replace a computer. Anyway, so it is that bad though. And I almost, when I read it, I was like, could I figure out a reason why somebody would pay her to call our show and be that bad? And I can't come up with anything. So I don't know how the idea would be. Is there a streamer, like a liberal streamer named Parker, maybe?
Parker get a job. Yeah.
Okay. I think the person said that they called, it was either Parker or Dean, who I am a little bit, I think I've heard of Dean. I think Dean did the Jordan Peterson show, right? The Jubilee with Jordan Peterson. Is that what?
I think that both Dean and Parker were at the Jordan Peterson thing.
I have no idea what Parker is. I think I know what Dean's face looks like on TV anyway. I wouldn't be able to. Anyway, let me go find this comment. Because I was like trying to, but they said they admitted to the person they were talking to, like they were paid to call their show, which then would make even less sense. So I'm trying to parse who would pay someone to call into our shows to make us look good. I'm not getting chorus money, so it's not chorus. We don't get any of that shit. I'm like, people are talking about that thing, and in as much as I care, it's that I feel like, well, we're leftists, so of course they're not going to pay us. The thing I care the most about is like, we ain't getting that bag. Okay, this is what the person said. Tracy's a repeat troll caller. I forget, but Dean Withers was able to expose her live on air before and she copped to it. She gets paid money to be an incoherent idiot as a way to make herself money. It's very annoying. But first of all, how
would that even work? This
person is shady on the details, so I can't even trust that Tracy is the same. I don't know that we have crossover audience for these people. Maybe we do. Again,
I think we do have a bit of. Yeah,
I think when people said get Dean on, they told me he represents liberalism, and I'm sorry, I grew up. I'm a leftist. If he's a liberal, I'm not that interested. He seems like a nice kid or whatever, but when he grows up a little bit and becomes a leftist, then I'll probably have space for him. Or is he? Because I feel like I also see he's trying now to collab with Hassan. I don't know what's going on.
I think he'd be probably placed better as a progressive. Like maybe he's not a leftist or a socialist, but he's definitely more progressive than your typical liberal.
I get it. But when I got my first YouTube checks that were real money, I was like, maybe I am a capitalist. But eventually I grew out of that too. So that might be what it is. I don't know. I don't know what it is. Dean, I'm sorry if I'm besmirching you. It's not on purpose. I also don't know how old you are, so I don't know how mean I'm being. How old is he? Like 19?
Oh, I don't know. He looks like he's like 20-ish to me, but he could be older than that. I feel old. I'm only 29, and all these people look like babies to me, and I'm like, I'm too young to be feeling this old.
I asked this other caller who claimed the same thing. These are paid callers, and I was like, but who is? So I assume that one's accusing me of paying. Fine, I'm not, but like, Whatever. How do you defend that you're not paying callers without seeming like you are paying callers? It's like being accused of being a pedophile. You know what I mean? Like no amount of defending myself will make it. It's.
And look at what I clip. I never clip calls like that. Like if they're just straight up like
right, we do call
useless,
out those ones. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't really do much with that. So it's like, what would be the point? Why would we?
Let me see if they responded because I asked who's paying them. Because I want to know. I would want to know if that is a thing. Yeah, no,
I would believe that somebody might be going around calling shows like this to try to like clip chimp it. You know, like they're trying to get you to say a line that they can then post somewhere else. But that's not exactly them getting. I don't know. Maybe they're getting paid by someone to do that. I don't really care. That's dumb.
I asked how she would make money doing that, and nobody actually responded that. But the one person who said the recall, I mean, when she called back, she called him a silly Billy, who actually says that, who's not trolling. She also didn't swear. I thought she might be like a Mormon liberal. Also, listen to her voice. Silly Bill, like she was Karening, right? She wanted to talk to my manager. Silly Billy would be like a way you try to lighten what a fucking... I don't know. I could be talked into... If somebody can explain to me what the interest would be for getting paid, right? Like how she would get paid if I'm not paying her, then I would hear that out. It was a pretty bad call, so I'm open to it. But we're also pretty good about like telling our audience we don't want anyone to fake it. We don't need it. There are enough dumb people out there. I don't know. Y'all go and watch and you tell me if you think it's real, if you think she's for real or not, or if she's just that dumb. I believed it, and I have pretty good podar. I think I've probably had the highest score.
It said Tommy Valkai is paying them. I believe it.
Oh, I think I have good podar.
International fugitive.
And so I think I have the highest score on the channel of like getting a person to admit on air that they were just bored and wanted to call in and pretend. And the way she's like melting down and repeating the name of a black woman she likes to prove she's not racist at the end of the call. So that's like her end, is like screaming a black woman's name. I don't know. It seems like there are certain things where I'm like, either she's the best at it ever. She would have to be a genius at sounding like an idiot. But I'm open to it, people. Y'all go and watch that one. Yeah, she was obsessed with January 6th apologetics. No, I get it. Someone's saying, I don't think it's a Fiverr thing or something. Right. I'm saying if they're just accusing me of paying them, then I guess then yeah, sure. I'm not. But I think it seemed like from them that they're saying they find a way to make money doing this. And I'm asking what that possibly could be. Is it people are making TikToks of the interactions and they're getting paid for TikToks of our videos? What is the thing they're doing?
I will say I have heard friends say like, oh, I saw your TikTok recently, and I'm like, I don't have a fucking TikTok. So somebody posts videos from like the line and stuff occasionally. I don't know. I can't. TikTok is a different environment. I just don't even want to.
We've got like I've tried
to like do the social media game, and when I open TikTok and I see people dancing, I'm like, fuck, literally never. I can't.
I think most of the time you're going to hear that means Jovan or Austin posted a clip of I think it's Austin is the other one who will post clips that they make there. And Promise probably does too. I don't know if she still does TikTok, but that could be our own host doing it. But yeah, I have gotten weird ones where I'm like, I can't find this video that you guys are even talking about. And I swear to God, if you guys are mixing me up with TJ Kirk again, still,
I don't know who TJ Kirk is.
The amazing atheist from back in the day, early atheist YouTube. People thought we were...
That's funny.
I'm not kidding. People will call in and be like, I have been watching you for like 15 years, ever since you made that Dear Black People video. I'm like, that's not me! That's not me! He's gotten better, but who
he was. He posted a video recently that showed up on my algorithm, and I was like, oh, cool. Who is this guy? And then I realized that there was apparently like a lot of history there. I don't know.
Atheist anti-SJW for a long time.
About it, but...
Yeah, he was atheist anti-SJW for a long time. I think last I heard he's like more podcasting now and has become more leftist. Is like leftist and thinks that I understand he doesn't hold the feelings he used to have. Anyway, I don't care about any of that. I care about how many people have mistaken us for the same person and have been like, I've been around since you were. I mean, now I can say I've been here for like 7 years or something, but people were like, I've been watching you for like 10 years, a year into my YouTube journey. I was like, no, you haven't. You have not. You liar.
That's really funny.
Yeah.
That's
and it always
atheist
turns out
racism.
Yes. AKA atheism. Shit. It just sounds like the original. Anyway, that's funny. That is funnier in my head.
God.
Let's read super chats real quick and call it a day. I'm not going to banner them, people, because that's broken, but I'll read them out. Let's see. Jimmy, take my money. Here's some. Okay, we did this one. Joshua says, Jimmy, when are we going to do another live outro stream? The last ones were a ton of fun. That would be fun. Maybe to do as a dedicated show. We make everybody like appear. We just do a queue of like in a day. Like, hey, can everybody come to this live stream where we're recording these? That could be a fun stream to do and let everybody watch.
Yeah, no. I was thinking I would love to have more that are like relevant to each show and that are like relevant to clips from that person. Because I try to do that when I can with the ones we have, but they're pretty much all you and Eric and you and Promise. So.
Oh, speaking of, if you haven't hit subscribe on the line, we need to start saying this on the line. I finally have a reason to care. Before it was like, look, we perform at the level of a channel that's like millions of, well, at least 1 million subscribers. We're doing like anywhere from 3 to 5 million views on that channel, and then sometimes 1 to 3 on our clips channel. Probably like 1 million views. We're doing like a channel that has 1 million, but a bunch of people don't subscribe. And I didn't care before, but now we have to start asking you guys like more fervently, because it turns out some of the people we have reached out to be like, hey, do you want to come on? All they did was check the subscriber number on the line. And once they had like a friend, there's a specific person I'm talking about right now, and then figured out this was happening other times, they had another friend be like, no, that's just because they do so many topics. So not everybody wants to subscribe because a lot of atheists are transphobes. Anyway, a lot of people aren't subscribing, and it is affecting when we want to collab with somebody. They do look at like, oh, how big is this channel? We want to subscribe. And because our subscriber number is lower than our performance number, they aren't. Even YouTube doesn't pay you for subscribers. A lot of people don't know that. They pay you based on the number of minutes that you are consumed through how many ads they served in those minutes. So a subscriber count, except for initially qualifying for pay, doesn't affect your actual pay. But who will collaborate with you, it does. So I got to figure out the quick, concise way to say, like, I used to not really care, and I very rarely bullied you into doing this, except for maybe like, don't forget, hit subscribe, blah, 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 blah. We'd actually like people to hit subscribe so we can start getting some of the guests that match our weight class. Like,
yeah, for sure.
People. Yeah.
Yeah, I've had a few people I would love to reach out to on like social media that I see that I'm like, yeah, you guys are probably not going to say yes to us or even acknowledge that I messaged you because you're so big and you don't even have like a business email contact anywhere on your page. So
it's crazy when they're older channels and you're like, okay, you have 5 million subscribers, or 2 million is usually like the range where I'll see this is like, you have 2 million subscribers, but you do 10% our monthly viewership. Like we get way more than you do. And yet it seems like you think you're too big for us, because back in 2015, when it was easy to get subscribers, everyone hit subscribe. Like
this has happened a couple times where somebody who'll have like one video that got like 1 million views, gets a few subscribers off of that who don't watch any of the rest of their shit, and then they think they're big shit and so much better than us or whatever. And I'm like, your average video does like a fraction of what we do. Just because you had one video pop off and people subscribed and then never watched anything else you did doesn't mean you're a big deal.
I'm not going to say any names, but I wonder who you could be talking about. Anyway, I know only you'll know who I'm referencing there, and anybody else who guesses won't get it right.
Yeah.
Barbara says, trans women, too strong for sports, too weak for the armed forces. Go figure. Damien, men on average have 10% faster reaction speed, 10 to 20% more bone density, stronger ligaments and tendons. Even with hormone therapy, those don't go away. Women pros lose to 13-year-old boys teams all the time. Sure, everything you just said was right except for the words. But other than the words you said, I'm completely in agreement. But absolutely, a lot of these things go away. And the whole faster reaction speed and stuff. You gotta love these people who it's so often like talking to Mormon. Like, you really think because you were born with a penis, you are the main character. You are a superhero. And you're even acknowledging some certain things by saying men on average. Like you're acknowledging that these are spectrums And so what we're talking about is the overlaps of those spectrums and whether or not the person exists within the overlap or they exist outside of the overlap because of an unfair advantage. And so far, no one's been able to make the case that they are existing outside of the overlap. And none of them will argue, none of you, Damien, because if it's not, you just said it doesn't go away. Show me the trans woman who has gone through HRT that can compete with the cis men. Show me one.
Yeah, I'm sure you'd be like, oh, well, sure, just it does go away, just not enough.
Right, but that's not what he said, Damien. That's not what he said,
Javon,
Damien.
I wish we had gotten a better response from the first caller, because Javon did this on last Wednesday's show when he was on with Matt, and I think it's so good where it's like, if you have a cis woman who has all those exact same advantages, and every person who I've seen propose this to so far says, well, no, they shouldn't be excluded. And it's like, so your issue isn't about advantages. It's just the trans identity part. If somebody who's cis has the exact same advantages and you want them to be included, then your contention with trans people isn't our advantages. Like,
I do need to take one second to go off topic because I need to justify that this was a business expense. So I'd just like to show everybody I have a PSA 9 Mega Alakazam card, which I need to write off. So this part of the show is brought to you by how cool this card. Alakazam is my favorite Pokemon. How cool this card is. Look how fucking cool that is. Are y'all?
I saw fan art of a like dark type alternate Abra Alakazam line today, and I was like, that's some fire shit. That was really cool. I kind of want to see that in a real game.
Especially since Wizards of the Coast and the Pokemon Company have always neglected Alakazam and thought he doesn't need to look that cool. Though I will tell you, I have this other PSA 10 that this is one of my favorite artworks. I don't know. Let's see if it focuses. I really like this one.
The artwork is the best part of the cards for sure. I mean, I'm not much of a collector, but I do like the art. Like when they announced the new Mega.
These are still at my house. These are for Arden. I went to a Pokemon show.
I get them. Look at how good the shiny looks. The shiny doesn't look great in game, but it looks so cute there.
I will tell you, this is really good compared to. And then this is a Korean, I think, no, Japanese card of.
So adorable.
Yeah. These are
moving all that stuff around.
That was her summer bonus. So everybody knows.
I love all the art stuff. It's so good.
Luthion's becoming taken with Leafeon. Oh, I can stop the recording. None of this stuff will need to make it into clips after.
Leafeon is very cute.
Leafeon's good. I'd put Leafeon probably in my top 3 evolutions. All right, back to the show. Don't worry, I'll be showing more Pokemon cards in the future. Oh, and probably doing some unpackings on Twitch or something.
The new Mega Dragonite.
Sorry, go on.
Have you seen the new Mega Dragonite or Dragonair? Yes. Dragonite. I thought it looked so dumb in the trailer, but the art I've seen for it,
there are people making better minorly alternatives. If they lean harder into, here's the thing, Dragonite always sucked as an evolution for Dragonair. Okay, Dragonite by itself, fine. Dragonair, years later, they released a Pokemon called Milotic, I don't know, however you want to pronounce it. That's a better Dragonair evolution than fucking maybe change the colors a little bit than Dragonite by like a long shot. And Dragonair is one of my favorite Pokemon. I love, and I'm like, the evolution of that should match that energy. And instead they're like, here's a dopey mailman. Okay.
I love the dopey mailman though. I agree with what you're saying though. Just it doesn't really feel like it fits in the evolution line or whatever, for sure.
That'll be what I get canceled for today. Be like, I said the thing about gorilla thumbnails earlier, but people are gonna be like, really? You just fucked with Dragonite? Out.
Right.
Out. Let's see. Falcon Storm says, here's $5 to drop Tom mid rant. We might start introducing. I know that's the thing Javon does where people can, but it would have to be more than $5. Because look, that clip is worth more than $5. Yeah. But it's only even Javon has $1 amount after a certain amount of time. After 20 minutes, if enough people, Taco Face Fart says, I don't think we should keep letting these wimpy European countries be more trans than us, USA. Don't worry, J.K. Rowling's making sure that they're not. Oh, by the way, guys, our hearts go out to Graham Linehan for being arrested. Like, Oh my God, you got arrested for saying people punch or kick trans people in the balls? Like, that's barely an incitement to violence, except that's exactly what it is. Graham, let me just say, because you know that your daughter and your wife aren't going to say it, I'm so sorry of what you're going through. They're not going to fucking talk to you.
I was just going to say, how's your divorce life?
Right.
How's the life where all of the people who should love you left you because you're such a psychotic, obsessed freak?
Fucking insane person. Also, you could do a cartoon avatar all you want. Even your cartoon avatar on Twitter is ugly. You're so ugly, you couldn't get a passable cartoon avatar, Graham. You are like as ugly on the outside as you are on the inside. And the people who are going to say you shouldn't ugly, blah, 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 blah. Here's an argument I've not seen anybody make yet. Surely the line before violence, that before we need to violently rebel. Okay. Before we hit, now's the time, pick up your weapons, take your country back. Surely short of that line is the time I get to call these people the R word and fat shame them, right? I got to do those things before the violence, right? Right? That line is before that. And I feel like a lot of you think we're close to the revolution line. So surely I can fat shame Donald Trump, right? Right? That would become before. If you think that fat shaming is worse than killing somebody, but you're for killing that person, then we just don't disagree or agree on the basics of humanism, I suppose. Surely I can talk about the vagina that is sitting in the middle of his neck that actually makes me a gayer man, because it's like, oh, well, I was enjoying vaginas till I saw his fucking neck. Surely I can talk about, are his cankles different? I can say that now, right? Right? Did they grow? I thought those looked normal to me. Anyway, I think I've made Arden terribly uncomfortable.
No, sorry. I had a cancelable thought about Grim Linehan, and I was really trying hard not to say it. So the urge is so strong. It's such an unfair double standard. He gets to be like, punch trans people in the genitals and call us all these awful things. But if I say the thing that he deserves to be called, that he's a Quasimodo looking ass, I fear that I'm going to get canceled for saying that. But, you know, I said it out loud, so whatever.
I'm trying to think of how the Hunchback of Notre System. I don't know. There's some funny thing we could do with that. All I know about the way Graham looks is I thought my parents might be cousins until I saw him, because I was like, nope, that's what I would look like if I was an incest baby. Right? That's
for real.
That actually represents what an ugly person on the inside and the out. Anyway, when it comes to your incarceration, my heart goes out to the handcuffs. I don't know. My heart goes out to unsanitary prison conditions. All right. Let's see. I don't have the regular. If your guys are canceling me in live, I only have the super chats up, so I don't know what you're saying. Am I getting canceled over there?
I don't even care anymore.
Okay. Falcon Storm says it's hard because I have to not get canceled because we have a whole company that anchors on me. So even this isn't as far as I'd like to go. This is me being like, I got to take one step out of this shit.
If you lose me, that's pretty detrimental to the company too.
Sure, but if I lose only you, I can for a while do the job. If we lose me, who's going to get paid? Right? Like. I have to pass through them. Are you going to do the accounting?
I don't know if I'll be allowed to. Will they let me?
I'll give you the books, and you're going to have to run the code look, I'm just saying there's a specific anchor point that I have that if you get canceled, Arden, I'll just pretend you're not, that we fired you, and you'll be the producer in the background too. Like
that's fair.
All that would happen is you're not allowed to host shows. But if they're like, as long as the CEO with the line is Jimmy, blah, 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 that's we're in danger there. I'll just change my name legally
somebody said
again.
Quasi is so cute. Honestly, fair. Like, this is why, like, your character is so much more valuable to me as an attraction thing, because I'm like, Quasimodo can look the way he does, and even as a cartoon, I'm like, yeah, no, you're right. He is cuter than Graham Linehan by fucking like Olympic swimming pool distances, and it's because of his personhood, who he is as a human being.
Graham looks like if Quasi deserved it.
That is the best. I'm gonna die. Oh my god.
Put that on a t-shirt.
If we get canceled, honestly, this is how I want to go. This is the best way.
I love the threat of cancellation. Oh no, I can't do this anymore? This? No, I can't. No, oh no. Oh shit. I'll just make fucking cutting boards. That's how depressed I am. Even my boards are cutting. Anyway, I'm a woodworker, people. That one was too far. Was that one too far? Mm-hmm. The next
you
one.
haven't gone before.
Yeah. Here's 5. No, that one we've read. Barbara says, show us the photo. Well, I don't know what you're talking about, but the other night I had a dream that somebody had put a virus on my computer, because I read a news article that this was happening, a virus on my computer that specifically activates your webcam but doesn't show a light when you're watching porn, and that somebody was going to expose me to the world for masturbating. And so I got with my group of top minds, which were really several people from high school I haven't talked to, about a content strategy where I would launch an OnlyFans and sell my dick pics before those came out.
And it's just, the camera shot is just like you, like this. While you're doing your camera, is just your face. With all in the... Amazing. Gold content.
You can start hearing my sleep apnea right as we lead up. Alex says, I know it was you, Fredo. You broke my heart. You broke my heart. That's not actually how the scene went out, but I know the line, but I can't remember how it's performed. Don't say Fredo around Chris Cuomo. Jesus Christ. Do you remember the time Chris Cuomo said that's like calling it's the equivalent to an Italian is calling a black person the N-word? Because somebody, when his brother was resigning in disgrace, he was like, how's Fredo? And he was like, you guys are okay with him calling him Fredo? That's like literally, it's like Fredo's just a guy's name, or it's like half of the name of a pasta.
I think Chris Cuomo should take his little collar with Trump's name on it and just go live in a cabinet in the White House and take it from Trump as he wants it, like he clearly wants to do.
Is Chris doing it too? I knew Andrew was. Are you thinking of the old governor, or are you thinking of the CNN anchor? I'm making fun of the CNN anchor. His brother.
That's the CNN anchor. That's right. I forget.
His brother was the governor.
Cuomo's.
Right. So
yeah, okay.
Chris and Andrew, when you look at them side by side, they're the same person, except Andrew's ugly. Honestly, it's gotta suck to have an ugly twin or a handsome twin. To look exactly the same except ugly has to suck. Like, I actually, if it weren't for how he like was a predator to those women and all those shitty things they did, I would just feel like, bro, looking at a person and going, is this a mirror that makes me look handsome? Nope, I'm still ugly. That's my brother. That would suck.
Yeah, I forget that the two exist sometimes. Is he a CNN anchor?
Chris Cuomo was a CNN anchor. Now he's on what is that one called? News Plus or it's some like newer startup.
Oh.
Bill O'Reilly does his show now. They're like, we're the moderates, guys. We're gonna hear from both sides, the fascists and the moderates. Like, you fucking. Oh my God. I'm getting closer and closer. Now have you seen any of my threads where I just post something stupid and I just make the title like, I don't say the R word. That's where I'm at.
I haven't seen that yet.
That's where I'm at.
Seen that yet.
I'm not saying it. Not on threads. 3 inches from the mirror sometimes, but not on threads. All right. Hank says, precisely none of the chasers who called today give a thin smear of shite about women's sports until late 2015. But Hank, I'm sorry, I disagree with you. You are wrong. They still don't care. They don't give a fuck about women's sports now. They care about trans people in sports. They don't care about women's sports. Get out of here. Get out of here. Nikki says, dedicated to the memory of my daughter's Pikachu plushie falling into the bobcat enclosure at the Sonoran Desert Museum. That's not funny. That was like a That was like when you see a baby goat fall into those enclosures where you're so horrified. That's not funny. That's really, really sad.
Oh, no.
That's like, it was just that the sentence started so cute and ended so tragically. And I have terrible facial reactions to things. I genuinely feel guilty, but I can't stop laughing also. That sucks. I'm so sorry, Nikki. And if anything, I want to get her a new plushie, except for now a bunch of people are going to email pretending to be you and ask if they can get that plushie.
Can I get that plushie?
Let me get that Pikachu plushie. We got plushies coming, I think. I think we'll probably get a Zerba plushie one of these days. I think we'll get there.
That'd be cool.
Let's see. I'm just trying to see real quick. No, nobody's... Damn, I didn't get canceled. I have to keep doing this job. I guess I'll be back on Sunday with Javon. I thought you guys might have gotten it. I don't know how to... I'm not going to say it. I'm not saying any of those things.
Try hard enough.
Luke says, are the characters from the 100-Acre Forest technically cryptids? I'm going to put that into ChatGPT. Since we're just asking questions that I have no opinion on.
Winnie the Pooh used to be my favorite show when I was little. When I was like a baby.
You mean Supreme Leader Xi Jinping? Boom, roasted.
Got him.
Do you know about that?
Yeah, he banned
Winnie the Pooh.
Calling him that or whatever.
No, he banned Winnie the Pooh.
He banned Winnie the Pooh.
Yes, he's also banned the comparisons, but you can't poo in public in China. There is no poo in China. You have to keep your poos
in China.
You can't poo at home. You can't poo at work. You can't poo on the street. You can't
even buy a red shirt.
If you and your wife love each other, you can't poo on her chest. Okay? There's no poo in all of China.
Unless the red shirt says like glory to the Chinese Communist Party, you do not get your red shirt.
Since the 100-acre wood animals are established fictional characters and not subjects of cryptozoological claims or alleged real sightings, they are not considered cryptids by any standard definition.
Boom.
Perplexity
Roasted.
Is what I actually used. The monad should be on the menu. I still don't fully know, Liz Chris, what that is. But
I like tried to look it up more, and I think I was also kind of wrong on calling it like the one supreme consciousness, although that is how it's framed a lot. Yeah. I don't know. It's such a dumb esoteric argument to me. It's one of those ones that is like, you might be able to construct a philosophical argument around it, but it's like, I don't get anything from that. Like, even if I accepted all your premises are true, and that's truly the conclusion, like my world has not changed at all. You know, there's nothing for me to worship. There's no God with values that I need to care about. And the world is still indistinguishable from one without a God. So I'm like, I have a really hard time giving a fuck about arguments like that. Cause I'm like, it doesn't get me anywhere. It doesn't change anything about reality or my life or my understanding or my approach or my relationships to people or my values. Like, it's just meaningless.
One time I got hit in just the left nut and I bent over and I went, oh, my nut.
Yep. That feels right. Sorry, you are late to the NAD jokes. They've been abused by our audience.
But has anyone beaten that one?
Yeah, that was good. That was good. I'll give you that one.
Thank you.
All right, are we done here?
Now someone's gonna quote tweet. Did he just ask if somebody's beaten Monad? Beat you to it. God Center says, "Give me zebra plushie. I found it so cute. Zerba plushie. I bought the trans flag Zerba right away after seeing it. Give me the cute." Wait, is Zerba spelled with an E? Because I've been spelling it with a U.
No, it's you.
Okay,
it's you. But our audience
do whatever they want.
Listen, you guys we know what you mean.
I was thinking of a plushie that's also a hand puppet. So it's still stuffed, but you put your hand in and then you can move its mouth, the Zerba hand puppet plushie. But just so everybody knows, I will make the entrance at the bottom fleshy pink and ridged.
Yes, naturally.
It will be.
I also don't want it to be like 3D where it's straight on. I want it to be like a flat 2D, and all you can do is operate the mouth sideways like this.
Like those old like popsicle stick puppets that you can pull the thing. That could be good. That could be good. What's important is that we make the entrance fleshy as hell. Hey, people, there's more stuff happening, and you definitely don't want to miss tomorrow's Cause I Wanna. Who is the person coming to Cause I Wanna?
Unquestionable. I don't know if I posted that today.
Oh my goodness. What is happening? Okay, you're back, I think.
Ghosty.
Are you back?
Here?
The signal just got crazy. Am I the problem or are you the problem?
I don't know. Nothing on my end. If that probably was me.
Hey people, is this coming out clear or am I also fluffing up? I don't see the episode on the line. Is it up yet?
No, it's not. I was actually just in the middle of posting because I'm like so tired and I need to be done. And I was like, I don't want to have any more work to do when I'm done this. So I'm doing it while we're finishing up.
Well, I will redirect y'all to the Sunday show and you can go hit set reminder to make sure you don't miss that. That's where the redirect's going to go. Make sure you hit that and be on the lookout because on the Sunday show and in the coming week, we will be announcing how you can now officially join the quote unquote algorithm army, which is a way we're going to try to manipulate our ways to the top in these stupid social media feeds and get the best, most unhingiest callers in the world. All right.
In the whole world?
Today on the show, a bunch of people called. One of them was Nate, and I got sad because Nate and I have been buddies in the past, but I feel like this is a hard one to disagree on. But also other people called who were much worse. Nate at least seems like he could be brought around to the better side. The other guys seem like they're just lost, especially that last one who freaked out when Arden yelled at him because he's a little puss. I can't remember his name, but if I hit caller 1, it'll pop it up. His name was Trey. And then there was also Damien. Can't remember what Damien said, but I have a feeling it was about trans stuff, which is fair enough. That's on us. And now for the last 2 sentences of the outro song. Arden, take it away.
I just posted the thing for tomorrow's show, so go click the little bell and watch that show so that we can all get money or have talks.